Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And God bless Candace Owens. She is back and going after the powers that be. Now, me and Nat disagree on this one. She thinks Candace is crazy. I think Candace needs to keep going in the direction she's going and keep fighting back.
Well, she can keep going in the direction she's going. It's just the people that believe her full-heartedly, I think eventually should learn a lesson to be more discerning about what they consume.
I am discerning.
She's fine. Like, she can continue to talk and sound absolutely insane, but she's still here with us. She had her show today. So luckily the French didn't get to her yet.
Well, I watched that entire show, and that's actually why we went on a little bit late. I don't think she's crazy. The more this story goes on, the more me and you just disagree. We're becoming polar opposites on this one subject.
But we do both agree that, I mean, she should have her freedom of speech. Nick Fuentes should have his freedom of speech. Everybody should be allowed to continue to talk. I'm not saying stop her from talking. I'm just saying her audience might want to be a little bit more discerning about everything she's sharing.
Yeah, but I think the Macrons are going after her and trying to bankrupt her in a state they have a lot of favorability in, which is Delaware, and they want to pull off an Alex Jones. We're talking about $1 billion settlement.
And that might be true. Like, I would agree with the Macrons wanting to go after her for what she was claiming and stuff, sure. And for them to want to take money from her. That I'm completely okay with. But the whole French Foreign Legion is coming after me, and they also ended Charlie Kirk, and they're all involved. They were there probably, but I have no proof. That's the part where she loses me a lot.
She doesn't lose me, because if we look into the history of not just France, but the EU, the United States, these governments have run experiments on their own people. They have a long history of this. I mean, if she's wrong, she's wrong. But if she's right, she's going to uncover a web like we have never seen before, and it will actually breed a lot of distrust in the government. And I think too many people are too trusting of the government very often.
And I do agree with that. And again, we do live in Mexico. I am Mexican, and I do see the differences between the Canadian population, some of the US population, and here in Mexico. At least in Mexico, most people already know the government's corrupt, already know the government does a lot of things. So we have this natural distrust ever since our essentially independence of the government, because we know what they can get up to. And I think that is missing from, and I do encourage creators, people, journalists to continue to go after that. And that is what the art of journalism has actually lost. A lot of journalists don't investigate anymore. They're essentially just paid propagandists for all of these Western governments that think they're above everything and have been able to continue with the illusion that they are completely non-corrupt when they are.
Okay, before we get into the first story, which is Candace, and we have a nice little clip I'm going to play. It might be a little ridiculous, but it feeds into the story and it allows us to kind of talk about it. If there are any comments, feel free to comment. We're going to read them all. You don't necessarily need a super chat. You may need to subscribe, because only subscribers can leave comments on this.
Yes, well, we're not monetized on this channel, so you can't even super chat if you wanted to.
Oh, okay.
But on I have a Spanish show in a little bit, and in our Spanish channel,
okay,
we do.
Let's get into it.
Do you want to explain this clip before we get into it?
Well, bring up the clip and then just see what it's entitled there.
That says, ominous character publicly threatens Candace. They will unalive her the next time she goes live. And yet, she's still with us.
Supposedly, this is a former, I believe it was, and now don't quote me, a former French Foreign Legion member that is becoming a whistleblower, or somebody that was with the three-letter agencies from France. Now, a lot of people may think this is ridiculous, may not be ridiculous. It could be a setup for like her to buy into this more than it is to try to discredit Candace at its base, I would say.
Or it could be herself trying to put breadcrumbs out there.
Absolutely not. I don't think she's going to try to put something like this out.
Because everybody can do a French accent and pretend to be from even though the French Foreign Legion is supposed to be, isn't it all supposed to be foreigners? So why would they have a French accent?
It doesn't necessarily have to be foreigners, so.
Okay. So do you want to watch it?
Yeah.
Was that it? Who's the guy? Who's the creator? How did he get this information?
Well,
do you have anything else or no?
No, it's going over the internet, so I thought we would play it and just kind of talk about it.
Okay.
LDGSC Action Division. For 21 years, I ran black contracts in Africa, Middle East, and yes, sometimes on your soil. Tonight, I break every oath I ever took. 2 days ago, a priority cable landed on my desk. Opération Poignard. Target Candace Owens. Client Unit 8200 liaison embedded inside the Elysee. Payment routed through a shell in Cyprus we have used since the Rainbow Warrior days. The directive is explicit. Quote, eliminate the subject during live broadcast. Maximum visceral impact.
Okay, pause it.
The blade...
And it is slowed down, and they're trying to disguise the voice because he is a whistleblower, supposedly. That being said, what he's saying is they want to take her out live on the show to send a message to everybody else. I mean, that's a little bit... It's a... Man, that would be quite the message.
Here.
She's still here, but she just came back today. So
from her Thanksgiving break, like all the rest of the creators in the U.S. did.
And also, she's starting to implicate a lot of three-letter agencies here, U.S. three-letter agencies now as well, not just France and Egyptian. That being said, the best move for them may to just be to discredit her. I mean, this is becoming extremely high profile. I think at its
extremely high profile.
It's extremely high profile because on her live stream today, she had almost 200,000 live viewers at once. Yes. So that would translate into millions.
Because she's good with a narrative. Does it continue to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
It must be visible. The audience must feel the cut. They want her open from sternum to pelvis while the red light is on. They want the chat scrolling, no, 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 as her at the desk. That trauma is the secondary payload. Primary payload is you, the viewers. Break the Americans who still speak again. Make the rest too afraid to open their mouths. The team is already in country. 4 operators, 2 ex-Legion Blade specialists from Corsica, 1 woman involved in the job on that Saudi journalist in Istanbul, and a spotter who was in the crowd in Utah. They have our studio floor plan, they have the shift change of our security, 2 of our own circle accepted crypto for information 2 weeks ago.
Okay, pause it there for a second. And this would be extremely hard to carry out, assuming this has any legitimacy at all. I mean, if she knows it's coming, it's supposed to be a spotter. That means, she's going to have a lot of security. She's going to be very aware this is coming. I would take this more as a discrediting operation in general.
I would take it as sarcasm or somebody just trying to get views off of it. But
okay, let's continue with the clip.
It continues?
Yes.
Oh, God.
This week's shows, the orders updated immediately. Mobile kill box. Wherever she surfaces next, whether it's an emergency stream, even a goddamn parking lot live stream, they are planning to be there. I sent her the precaution through a cutout she trusts. Burner rules, no GPS devices, no routines.
Okay, that's good.
Well, they weren't because she had her show today and I didn't see anybody, dressed in all black like a ninja talking in French and trying to take her out live on stream.
Well, I had watched this clip surfaced, I think it was 2 days ago. I had watched it. So that's why I was very interested in watching the entire Candace Owens podcast today. And
in case she got taken out by the French Foreign Legion, as they did apparently also with Charlie, please.
We do have a comment. You're going to read the comment?
Yes. So from Lauren says more than 20 million Americans' health insurance premiums are going to skyrocket in the next few months. It will be hard to trick them into believing it's the Democrats' fault and not Trump's. Trump's approval rating has fallen to just 36% in the Gallup poll released Friday, the lowest of his second term. More than 60% disapprove. Other polling isn't much better.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting what happens, especially leading up to 2028. A lot of systems are going to start collapsing in the United States, especially with the rise of AI. A lot of jobs are going to be lost. A lot of AI experts say we haven't even seen any job losses yet. It's expected next year. The first major wave is going to hit. The year after that, it's going to be in full free fall, at least the job markets. If that happens, that 2028 election is going to be extremely, extremely interesting because capitalism will actually begin to fail at that point.
Capitalism as we know it right now, in the States at least, and that has spread throughout the rest of the world, which is essentially just everything is riding on debt.
Well, everything's not only riding on debt, but if jobs start disappearing in mass,
then people can't pay their debts.
Yeah.
And that's already happening. I mean, in Canada, most people are already defaulting on mortgages and even card payments. So,
well, we are going to get into some other clips with Fuentes and stuff like that. Do you have anything else on Candace right now? Well, you kind of sat there getting ready for the show as I watched the full podcast.
Yes.
So you kind of overheard everything.
well, again, she continues to try to weave narratives without actual proof. Again, she was on a Thanksgiving break, which she decided to use to say, oh, I might get off. And yeah, she didn't. She was on today. I'm guessing more and more ridiculous conspiracy theory clips will continue to surface, like the one you made us all watch just now.
Well,
And I just think, again, she's doing it for attention and to continue the narrative that has made her ego boosted, because obviously she doesn't need that much money. She married like a very wealthy man. So.
Well, if they do bankrupt her with this lawsuit, and as we've seen with Alex Jones, they were able to not only bankrupt him what he had, but for his future earnings as well. So possibly she could be bankrupt. I mean, she's really risking it all. I get my hats off to Candace Owens for really going at it. I don't know how much she actually has. She's saying she's going to go hard all week. So she has had a week off. I'm sure she has done a lot of investigating. She went directly at the Macrons first thing on this episode. She's trying to connect a lot of things. I don't know how much she actually has right now. She didn't reveal that much today, and that may become
Does she ever?
it might become a problem as it goes on, especially if nothing happens to her.
Exactly, because now she made the giant mistake of making herself more of the story. She was already making herself the story, but now she's actually involved in the essential narrative that she's been telling, and now she's gonna run out of evidence. She's going to run out of proof. She's going to run out of, because did she ever say what the FBI told her about the thing that she reported to and that they confirmed the receipt of? Because that just means they got it.
She actually said the opposite. She said there has been absolutely no response from the Macrons, from the French government, from the U.S. government. Everybody is absolute crickets. She's saying that.
Of course. There's nothing there.
But I will say this. If she's wrong, she's wrong. And I mean,
if she's wrong, then she has actually done damage to the people that were following her and were believing in what she was saying.
But but the upside, if she is right, would be absolutely create a global change on the trust in the governments. Right? People are going to look at not only the French government, the European government, the American government in a different way, with a much more skeptical eye, which I think is absolutely necessary. I mean, a level of corruption alone that's in the governments is insane. But the fact that they're running experiments on their own population and they all have a long history. I mean, they've actually released a lot of the MK Ultra documents and different operations that have gone on, and people know it's there, but they don't look at the current government with the appropriate skeptical eye, I think.
I think a lot of people do, especially the ones that did go into MAGA, Maha, RFK Jr., Trump a little bit, but now he is the government, so they are looking at it with a different eye. And again, the labor she's doing by making people more skeptical of governments is good, but the way she's going about it, if it all ends up crumbling and it's not true, then she actually did a giant disservice, because then she's proving that what she's saying is there isn't actually there.
Well, if she's wrong, she's going to absolutely bankrupt herself. Possibly, I wouldn't say her family, because her husband does come from a lot of money, and I'm sure he has a lot of those assets put in different companies and hidden away, so they'll still have something to lean on. So I really hope she doesn't go the path of having a GoFundMe and stuff like that.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past her. But.
Yeah, but I mean, okay.
But
no, that was all I was gonna say.
Okay, and now you had a thing about Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few clips. He's coming up really challenging JD Vance, but it's going to be strange because I think JD Vance is actually going to be his safety net in the end if Rubio takes Vance's place as the primary candidate for 2028.
So from Fuentes updates, Nick Fuentes will not support JD Vance in 2028. Trump betrayed the America First base, and Republicans will not get young conservative men to vote for them unless they change that.
And America First Republicans cannot vote for regular Republicans that don't put America first. Are you serious about realizing America first, or are you just paying lip service to it? Do you want things to change? Do you believe fundamentally that things should change? Are you serious about that? Or are you content to let the country continue fighting Israel's wars and then complain about it on Twitter? campaign for Trump, vote for Trump, and then throw your arms up and act exasperated when he brings us to war in Iran. This is why I say that in 2028, I'm an undecided voter. I'm not going to vote for J.D. Vance.
Didn't he do this little shtick with Trump as well?
Well, yeah, he broke broke from Trump on the last one, but I will say this: I mean, having a divided base and him kind of trying to lean into this uniparty, something that might actually challenge the Republican Party, could split the vote and have disastrous consequences for Trump. But like the comment said earlier, Trump is losing a lot of support exactly because of this, and Tucker Carlson and a lot of other people. I mean, Trump is going in a corporate direction. They want him to follow through on a lot of his promises that he made in the campaign to the MAGA base.
I'm not necessarily going to vote Republican. I doubt I'll vote Democrat. I'm undecided. And I'm undecided because now that I am a leader in the movement, now that I have an audience, now that everybody's listening, we have to take this to the next level and say, I don't want to be told, oh, poor guy, you were attacked. Now you are a bitter hater. No, I was right. And I am here to claim my prize. And my prize is that I influence a lot of young conservative men that the GOP needs, that they know they need to win an election. And I don't say this out of bitterness, and I don't say this for any personal reasons. I will not vote for Republicans. I will not deliver my audience to vote for Republicans if Republicans don't put America first. And if Republicans lose because they're not willing to do that, I am perfectly happy to allow them to do that to themselves. But don't blame me.
Okay, and that's pretty good for that. And we're going to go through a series of clips here. Another big option is actually, we're going to kind of get into it in a little bit, but libertarianism could kind of be reformed from the inside out, much like Trump kind of reformed the Republican Party. It could possibly be an alternative for a voter base for either the Democratic side or the Republican side. There's currently a war going on inside libertarians, which is kind of a left-right split. A lot of it has to do with immigration policies. We're going to go into that when we talk about the big libertarian debate that's kind of coming up. And I think it's really
for people that are like extremely online. Most people don't really care about
that. Yeah,
but
the reason the Libertarian Party is so bloody important is because they're already established in a lot of states and they can get on the ballot. So if there's a third party candidate, we've seen what happened to RFK last time. He tried to attempt to make a third party, but it was hard to get on the ballot or even meet the requirements to make the ballot. If you join the Libertarian Party or reform the Libertarian Party from the inside, you will be on a lot of the ballots, and you will actually have a chance to make a meaningful impact in 2028.
Okay. But now J.D. Vance, well, no, I don't know if now, but he did speak also about...
And we've played this clip before. I just kind of want to show J.D. Vance's kind of response to him. He's kind of eased up on some of this rhetoric. I think he knows if Marco Rubio tries to leapfrog him in for the 2028 election, he might actually have to rely on the 2028 base. That would be Steve Bannon, Nick Fuentes, and Tucker Carlson.
So from El Jacobi VP, J.D. Vance says that Nick Fuentes doesn't have any room in the MAGA movement, calling him a total loser. Saying losers.
In your own movement, that's what I want to ask about, because one of the supremacists who was saying things like this about your family.
Yeah.
Nick Fuentes, an avowed anti-Semite,
sure,
went after your wife. He had previously dined at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. Does this have any room in your movement, in the MAGA movement?
Of course it doesn't have any room in the MAGA movement. And of course,
you disavow him and this.
And of course, Donald Trump has criticized this person. Look, I think the guy's a total loser. Certainly I disavow him. But if you ask me what I care more about, is it a person attacking me personally, or is it government policy that discriminates based on race? That's what I really worry about.
And let's say Marco Rubio does try to leapfrog him for 2028 and be the primary candidate. I don't think J.D. Vance is going to take the backseat, especially because he was vice president. So I think he will have a direct challenge. He will have to rely on the America First base. We've seen J.D. Vance be a bit of a chameleon. He used to be a never Trumper. He's able to bury the hatchet and kind of build alliances in order to get where he wants. I mean, he's rose extremely quickly as well. That creates a lot of questions, along with his relationship with Palantir. I mean, he kind of looks like the big tech candidate.
But I mean, with the options that are at least now on the table for 28, he would be the one most people would lean towards. I
He's
think.
by far the front runner right now, at least but the question is if they dramatically fail in the midterms, which it's kind of looking like that right now,
Yes, because
surprisingly.
they're not concentrating on the issues that most people actually care about for the midterm.
Well, and I
They're
think
just infighting.
I think between the years of 2024 and 2028, it's a huge transitional period where AI is going to be taking a lot of jobs. The economy is in dramatic either collapse or transformation under the tariffs. Capitalism in general, with the way Europe is collapsing, you have Canada, Mexico. I mean, things are in huge transition. By the time 2028 rolls around, if there is enough chaos, people are going to be looking for strongmen that can bring order, which is maybe not the best thing, especially when you have digital ID, digital currency on the rise, and you have technologies that can bring absolute authoritarianism to society.
And you're able to convince a wide segment of the population to actually ask for those because they're asking for order. But when they're asking for that order, they're not considering the freedoms that they're giving up as well.
Yeah, and I think like if there becomes a lot of chaos because of AI and jobs become more and more scarce, the economy becomes worse and worse, people are going to become desperate, and desperate people will give up their freedoms for security.
Yes. And then there's this other clip. I don't really know what it's about. From Fractured Light, Nick Fuentes tells you with this what this is all about, why they're attacking him so hard.
And this just goes along with that JD Vance thread, and why you're going to see this split amongst conservatives for who to support in 2028. They may be also trying to apply a lot of pressure on JD Vance to come to the America First movement as their candidate.
In the whole enchilada. You want to know why they're so mad about my show? Not even from last Friday, but from the week before that. I'll give you a little spoiler alert. It has everything to do with the vice president. We are living in House of Cards right now. JD Vance went from being an unelected civilian in 2022 to a senator, to the vice president in 24, to within 4 years, potentially the president of the United States. That is some serious House of Cards shit. This is a guy that in 6 years has gone from never Trump author to potentially president of the United States. And he was empowered to get there by Peter Thiel, who designed the surveillance state itself, by Elon Musk, the richest man in the world who owns the platform X, and Tucker Carlson, who is maybe the most influential voice in Republican politics, courtesy of Rupert Murdoch, his former boss, and Rebecca Mercer. And I'll show you how it all comes together at the end. I'm Zoe Barnes. What if there was a coup against the American government? What if there was a coup against the America First MAGA movement by the deep state to usurp and subvert Donald Trump?
You can kind of leave it there. But if he wants to say it's not JD Vance, which I think JD Vance is a very fair candidate, especially at this point. But there are a lot of questions like kind of he brought up. And I like the fact that those questions are brought up. JD Vance was forced to answer a lot of these questions about his connections to Palantir. But rather than just going against JD Vance and trying to absolutely tear him down, which is going to lead way to a massive landslide potentially in the midterms with the Democrats, you need to start putting up your own candidates. You can't just say America first, this is what we want, and then not have a candidate.
Do you think he wants to be the candidate?
I don't think he could be the candidate. I think he has too much dirt on him.
He's too young.
And yeah, he's 28. I think, yeah, no. I think whoever Steve Bannon is going to back, I think Fuentes, it's going to be interesting to say the least. So, and I think they also want to kind of bend JD Vance to really be the America First candidate, but he's stuck between a lot of multiple interested parties in different things.
And I think, unfortunately, again, what Nick Fuentes needs is, yes, to continue to be platformed and debated against, but he needs to learn what America First actually means, because his meaning doesn't actually go with what a lot of other Americans, especially the founding fathers, were saying America First actually meant.
Yeah, I think Christian nationalism is definitely on the rise. The one big issue is Nick Fuentes kind of wants this idea of Christian nationalism or Christian socialism nationalism, but through the Catholic Church, which is a globalist organization, which a lot of the base of MAGA is kind of fighting against. And Fuentes very rarely says it, but once in a while it kind of slips out, and it leaves me questioning, like, what are you really trying to build here? You say America first, but you're trying to follow the Pope into this global movement that's already been, like, the skin suit's already kind of been prepared.
And with JD Vance, and we were also talking about the economy and capitalism probably breaking down because of the rise of AI, even though right now it's still pretty useless. And a lot of companies have realized that and have realized that some of the people that they laid off, now they have to bring back to actually train the damn thing because it doesn't properly work how they thought it was going to work. But it is moving pretty quickly and at a speed I think a lot of people don't expect. So right now, yes, there's no massive job loss or job takeover by AI, but in 1 to 2 years, it might actually be there.
Not
so
1 year.
1 year.
Because
But fully, like the full effects and realization of a lot of people will be before the next election. And if JD Vance can get in and can continue, hopefully if the Supreme Court doesn't take down Trump's whole tariff plan, then that would be an actual way to move capitalism over to a place where it could continue to work. However, if they can't do that, if JD Vance doesn't get in or etc., the tariff plan could actually have crumbled even further the American economy because which is what a lot of people complain about and why a lot of people are listening to people like Nick with his ridiculous plan of National Socialism, because they see that current capitalism that works mostly on debt isn't working. But if the plan cannot be fully realized that Trump has, that JD Vance could continue, then it will all continue to crumble anyways. And the Democrats' plan won't be that much. They don't have a plan, essentially.
Yeah, but JD Vance is going to be linked with Trump at the hip at every single policy that he kind of puts forward. And as he becomes more of a corporatist, if he moves away from the base and a lot of the promises, a lot of that is going to kind of stain JD Vance for the 2028 election, number one. But number two, if you continue to prolong capitalism, assuming there is major job losses, and that's not guaranteed, but a lot of the AI experts say in the last 2 months, AI has hit a new milestone, and with the next 12 months, we are going to see the first wave of major job losses. The year after that, it's going to be in full effect. That's going to create absolute chaos in society. If they're right about that, and say they're right, there's major job losses, but then Trump continues to go down this capitalistic path, I mean, it's just going to consolidate all the wealth into big tech. Okay.
And this is your story because I have no idea what this is about either, but these are all people you watch and follow. From Liquid Zulu, most consistent mofo you know, the time has come. I will be debating Dave at 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, the 4th of December. Be sure to drop by.
Yeah, so this is going to be an actual massive debate. Most people will probably know Dave Smith. If you're deep into politics and philosophy of politics, you'll know Liquid Zulu. He's probably one of the main theorists behind libertarianism in the modern sense. Dave Smith.
In the U.S.
Yeah, worldwide, I would say, actually. Dave Smith, he's got a very small following, though. Dave Smith has a very big following, and he is kind of the gateway into libertarianism, but they have some fundamental differences on how they view libertarianism and how it should be enacted. One of the big major differences, and where I think this debate is going to kind of talk a lot about, is immigration and the policies of immigration. Libertarianism at its base believes in open borders, and that's why a lot of people reject it. Dave Smith doesn't necessarily believe in open borders, and it's maybe a different vein of libertarianism. I won't get too much into it. I kind of wanted to bring it up just so the audience knows about it, know that's going on. It's very important because the Libertarian Party will provide an alternative for either the conservatives or the Democrats, depending which way this debate goes. And if there's a decisive victor, you'll see the Libertarian Party either become libertarian liberal or libertarian Republican, in a sense, where their voter base could either really help or really hurt one of the parties. So let's just say the Democrats, for instance, run a candidate in 2028. If they're too corporatist or something like that, the Libertarian Party could potentially offer an alternative to their voters, splitting the vote. So the fact that there's this kind of chaos within the libertarian movement, it's very important to kind of see how this turns out. Even though I don't think the libertarians will win a 2028 election, it could have a massive impact on how voting blocks sway and go. Yeah. Okay. And also you have to realize the Democrats and the Republicans have stolen some of the greatest ideas from the libertarian movement.
Like what?
The Democrats had open borders. So Democrats never used to have open borders. They actually got the idea of open borders from the libertarians. It was actually to reduce conflict in the libertarian mindset. The Democrats kind of took that idea, didn't explain that it was to reduce conflict, and used it as an economic policy, which has kind of failed. At least I think so. The Republicans, smaller government, and a lot of the ideas on how to implement smaller government, the best ideas that's actually been brought to the Libertarian Party. And I know what you're going to say, Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke actually got a lot of his ideas from the Libertarian movement.
There wasn't, I mean,
I researched
back
it.
then, I know. But back then, the libertarian movement wasn't and didn't mean exactly the same thing it does now. Same as the conservatism, as Edmund Burke used to talk about, is not exactly the same as it is today. Some of the principles still stand, the main ones.
But you also have to realize the modern Republican movement doesn't really have these think tanks on how to make smaller government. The libertarians do, and that's why a lot of these ideas on how to actually implement a smaller government are well theoretically worked out in the libertarian movement. So it allows the Republicans to kind of come in and take the work that's already been done for them.
But with the libertarian movement, at least nowadays, I do see the same problem that the Democrats have been having, or the people on the left, where there is no grounding moral foundation because they also reject religion. So where do they get that from?
That's the thing. Dave Smith that's why he rejects certain aspects.
But then why doesn't he just call himself conservative? It would be a lot easier.
I think, but he doesn't necessarily. Because he wants to be cool. No, he doesn't necessarily embrace all the founding of the Republican movement either. So he's trying to really work something new out, I would say. I like Dave Smith a lot. I know you don't like Dave Smith, but I do.
He's a comedian.
We really disagree on who we like, because I like Candace.
Well, I like you. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
He's my husband, in case you're new here. But let's move on to another Nick Fuentes clip that you put in there. And I think we talked about this yesterday when we were going to a friend's house from Dinesh D'Souza. I told you this was coming. The people have to believe in the authority of the state. Forget about liberty and safety. It's about order. I don't believe in the individual. The fascists and people with a mustache were leftists, so this is a natural trajectory for Nick.
And the reason I put this in here, he's actually talking about libertarianism, and I was going to talk about the debate. But a lot of the things he is saying here, I don't think are going to be implemented well. I don't think people are going to take to it well. Come 2028, if there is a ton of chaos, though, people are going to be looking for this, and that's the scary thing.
Especially young people who have, and I do agree, have had their future stolen by a greedy baby boomer and some Gen X generations. So I do understand the anger, and I do understand the, not hatred, but the anger towards capitalism and the way things are right now, and the lack of opportunities, especially now when this is ramping up with AI and with more job cuts, etc., and the economy actually not rising up as Trump said it would, and as other people have said it would. But this is not the way. This is not the way, people.
Well, especially with this clip, I dramatically disagree with him on a lot of things, but he's bringing certain aspects of conversations in which need to be had, and I think that's why I end up having a lot of clips on my show about him. Not necessarily that I agree with him on a lot, although I do like him. He is somewhat charismatic, and he does have a good show. That being said, he's forcing the conversation, whether it's the conversations that need to be had on the left, the right, or in this case, the libertarian conversation.
And I do think, again, it is important to platform for people that don't want to debate him, and to actually have these ideas
flushed out. Yeah, they need to be flushed out.
The problem with libertarianism is that liberty is not the highest political virtue. The highest political virtue is order. That is the greatest ordering principle. That is the greatest governing principle, order. Order comes first, liberty comes second, and order has to be maintained by a powerful state. Order has to be maintained by authority. And where does authority proceed from?
Pause it. And he's saying it needs to be a powerful authoritarian state. If there's enough chaos, people will actually seek that. And that's the scary thing. We're still living in very good times right now, but over the next couple of years, there could be major chaos. We need to properly plan for a possible transition if there are major job losses. I don't like the idea of this authoritarian state he's pitching. It sounds very Nazi-esque to me.
Force, guns, overwhelming force, power that comes out of the end of a rifle, and legitimacy. The people have to believe in the authority of the state. And if these things are being undermined by freedom, by liberty, then you don't get liberty. And people like to say that Ben Franklin thing about liberty and safety, liberty and safety. It's about order and disorder. Forget about safety and liberty. It's about order and disorder. And what Hobbes writes is that even a bad order is better than disorder, than chaos, than a war of all against all, a total collapse of authority. Because you know what happens when the power goes out? Rape. Okay?
And
rape.
And so he's talking about this order, disorder, and authority, and now he's trying to scare the audience and saying this is the way to go. And I think a lot of that order needs to come from a grassroots effort from morality, which I think religion actually provides a lot of. So when there is chaos, we still can treat our neighbors with kindness, not the government coming from the top down with authoritarianism and trying to sell top down authoritarianism like I think he's trying to do here. He's trying to do through fear. But if that fear becomes a reality because society becomes more and more chaotic over the next few years, people will look for exactly what he's saying here. And that's why we should maybe prepare beforehand and so we can avoid that.
And again, having this control and this form of authoritarianism is going to be a lot easier once digital IDs and digital currency come into effect, especially if it is suggested by the people that are supposedly going to do the change. I'm waiting for you.
Okay. That was a little hot. Okay.
Murder, looting, pillage, marauding, barbarism, an orgy of the crowds, an orgy of violence and chaos and hatred and anger. Okay, it's like the kinds of war crimes in Abu Ghraib. Okay, it's like the kinds of war crimes committed in Vietnam, in Iraq. When you have a total collapse of order, you get things that it's beyond human comprehension. So this is a very free country. This is one of the freest countries to ever exist. And the problem is that those things are starting to become undermined, the authority, the force and the legitimacy that founds the authority of the state, which holds the country together, which enforces the laws. And libertarians, they have a little bit too much faith in people and a little bit too much faith in the individual. I don't believe in the individual. And I'm individualistic, but I'm not an individualist. Individualism only makes sense in a white, Christian, patriarchal society.
And it just kind of goes off the rails there at the end. And what were you going to say?
Well, like I told you when I first listened to it, is like he's almost there. He almost understands the concept, and then he goes completely wrong.
You said it the other day when I was talking to you about this clip, and you were, but he knows how to identify. He knows how to identify the issue.
He knows how to diagnose the issue
very, very well.
Yes.
And he gives somewhat of a solution, but usually a lot of his solutions go off the rail, and a lot of his fundamental base beliefs are just not there. Especially when he's talking about, I don't believe in the individual. He says this in other clips where he thinks people shouldn't read the Bible, and the Bible should be dictated to you from the top down, which would be the Catholic Church and the Pope. But we've seen how that can go astray. I do think it's nice to go to church and everything else, but you should definitely form your own opinions and read the Bible yourself as well. We've seen how the Pope has gone off the rails over the last few...
Several popes.
Yeah.
And again, with the, I don't believe, trust in the individual, I sort of agree with that as well. And and I continue to say I'm not religious, I do understand the necessity and the need of religion, or at least of, it's going to sound funny, but a higher power and something that can dictate over people their morals, virtues, values, etc., that is not coming from either a government, which is still humans, or themselves, which also doesn't work. And that is where disorder starts to come. So if within the social contract, and within how we relate to each other and how society is structured, that order isn't coming from higher power or virtues or morals that are understood by the entirety of society, then yes, you will get this disorder. But the way to order it again is not through top-down authoritarian control, because then it's just coercion and force rather than the people wanting to actually do it. So it becomes false. That's what's happening in Mexico. The authority that the powers that be in the or government has is not true power because the people don't fully accept it. It would be the people wanting to stop doing the wrong things or the disorder things they're doing that would actually signify a proper social change and an actually structured, ordered society. It can't come from the coercion and the force of a government. It has to come from the society as a whole and each individual themselves as well.
You need a non-moving moral foundation, and that's what religion kind of provides. And it's as old as time. It's extremely old. People have passed this down from generation to generation. It's fairly well accepted. I think Christianity is the best moral foundation to push forward, except if you do push Christianity forward onto the public, you don't do it like Islam, where it's being pushed organically from the ground up, but then authoritarianly from the top down as well. And it can really go off the rails. It really needs to be organic and pushed through. I mean, the government puts out propaganda all the time. So yeah, it needs to be pushed out in society. Don't put the LGBTQ community in the forefront of your society. Put family, the nuclear family.
That's what they used to do.
Yeah, those things do work overall, and I want to see that. Also, I don't want to see morals being changed or dictated by an AI, which can shift over time. You want something that really
Is grounded.
Yeah, is grounded and grounds a society, and Christianity does that very well. And we've seen it go off the rails in certain places, certain times, and in certain countries, and we should learn from those mistakes.
And again, I think also, and I continue to say it, church and state should be separated, specifically because of the ability of holding checks and balances on each other, but also on the people, but the people doing it to those two institutions themselves as well, which is important and which we have lost as well.
Yeah. Okay, if anybody does have any comments, leave the comments. We will read them. You don't have to super chat. We're not monetized, so I don't think you can super chat even if you wanted to, but we do read all the comments. It helps the show really have a much better flow.
Yes, and please do like and subscribe as well. It helps us a lot as well, and it is free too. Should we continue talking about Nick and his ridiculous
Well, I think that was
ideas?
it for...
Well, no, there's something about Cenk.
Oh, yeah. And we have been talking about this horseshoe theory with especially Nick Fuentes' idea of National Socialism reaching out to the left. I have specifically identified him and Hassan Piker kind of uniting by 2028 to kind of push whatever left-right movement they want. And now we're kind of seeing it here. Cenk's trying to push it to Hassan. I think this is the first steps. They want to make it look organic. Yeah.
From Post Left Watch, Cenk Uygur thinks that Nick Fuentes saying he wants to unite with the left. Cenk believes it is proof that the tide is turning towards a left-right coalition. Cenk also says about Tucker Carlson. He believes that Tucker and Nick Fuentes are sincere.
And I will say this before it starts. There are a lot of people trying to make left-right coalitions right now to kind of replace neoliberalism. Neoliberalism kind of united with the neocon movement. And that's why you get this idea of a uniparty that's ruled since about 1980 in the United States until present time. And a lot of these movements are realizing, well, we have to have a left-right coalition if we want to replace the current left-right coalition.
The problem is the idea of what they want to replace it with would be a lot worse.
Well, there's a lot more,
proven by history.
There's a lot more centrist movements that aren't maybe as radical, but I'm telling you, I've been watching a lot of AI content where AI is going, how it's going to take jobs over the next couple of years, how it's advanced over the last few months. And if chaos starts to kind of emerge over the next couple of years, stuff like this is going to be a lot more popular politically. Right now, I don't think it has real legs.
So now we're left with two guys that are left, Tucker Carlson, and I'm going to say the word or the name, Nick Fuentes. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's I have stopped censoring that Nick Fuentes mentioned since he's getting fucking profiled by the New York Times, you know?
Yeah. So Tucker Carlson, I think, has a shot at actually meaning it. And so I'm not sure that I agree with you.
You and I have had a private conversation about this many years ago, and I think I've been vindicated on this.
I think I've been vindicated on it, but we can have that conversation in a minute. So to now go to, we'll come back to Tucker. You go to Fuentes. And so he seemed to be a classic guy who's, to be fair to him, not hiding his nationalism, right? So he was like, I'm going nationalist. I'm going Christian nationalist, white nationalist. It appeared to me, right? That was my original read of him. But now he's also changing. And so now I know we all cancel him to bejesus. And
I mean, he's
okay, Barry
literally-
Weiss, if
he's
you're watching, which you
literally
obviously
a
are,
Holocaust denier.
right? So no problem. You deny the Holocaust. You say all these things. He's against race mixing. Well,
Yeah.
I'm married to an Asian woman. What am I going to agree with that? Right. So obviously we're against all that. But even now he has realized that's not actually where his audience is. So whether it's
I
Craven,
think he's a grifter. I think these guys are all grifters.
right? Whether it's Craven or not, whether they're grifters or not, even Fuentes is now saying, he said it just like 2 days ago, you know what? Maybe we put aside the racism and the cruelty and the abuse, right? Which is an amazing admission, by the way, that kind of is the direction they were going, right? And he says maybe we put that aside
I just don't
to be able to unite with the left.
I don't
So
believe
I'm not
anything
saying
yet.
yes to Fuentes. I'm just saying look at the tide moving. The tide is moving towards populism because it's being driven by the audience. The audience wants real populism.
Okay,
so when they
and
say
that's
it's
good.
bullshit,
And you have to also realize Cenk Uygur is one of those people trying to reach across the aisle, but they're reaching to the furthest possible sides, being Hassan Piker and Nick Fuentes. And they both have a few good ideas to them, but then they have a ton of bad ideas. And if they manage to get in power with a uniparty, I dread to see the outcome there. And I think there would, if they did get power, there would immediately be infighting of one trying to lay claim to the whole movement.
And it's like they're grabbing the worst ideas of those two extremes, and then they're trying to make it into something and cook it into something just because they know that the youth, again, the Gen Zs and Gen Alpha that will come after, are extremely tired and their opportunities have been taken away, and nobody's listening to them either. And yet we have these career politicians that also don't want to leave and don't want to cede power. However, we cede power to the ones with the worst ideas, it's going to get worse. It might seem better for a bit, but then it'll get worse.
Yeah, 2028 is going to be here in no time. The midterms are going to be a big indication of what kind of happens, because if Trump loses in the midterms, he's going to be frozen out for the full second half of his term. He's not going to be able to get anything done except through executive order. Even when those executive orders are potentially put in, they may be reversed by the House and the Senate. A lot of his previous executive orders may be reversed. On top of that, I mean, he may be impeached if he loses the midterms. You know they're going to go for him.
They might try.
Yeah.
And then you had this clip about Ireland. Do you want to introduce it? Because I don't.
Why don't you just read the top of the clip?
From Real News Ire, I forgot how to say it. A new group called the New Republican Movement claimed local representatives are legitimate targets. Mass immigration and the indoctrination of children in schools are mentioned as reasons for their existence.
Yeah, and there is a lot of animosity about the type of immigration that's coming into Europe right now. If you were to see a resistance movement really pop up that went past words, it would be in Ireland. I mean, we remember what happened with the IRA and the Catholics happened back in the day. I mean, that country was at war for a long, long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like this popped up.
And
I've been kind of saying, I'm not going to be surprised if these migrant hotels start getting burned down in Europe.
To the people of Newry, Mourne and Down, we, the New Republican Movement, have watched their councillors and MLAs over the past 12 months. The level of disrespect shown to the people who put you into power, this cannot be ignored any longer. We are proud men of Ireland. We are patriots. Your policies and decision-making in regards to flooding our communities with undocumented military-aged men is not acceptable. We will not sit back any longer and watch our culture and religion destroyed by the people we put in power. Also, the sexual indoctrination of our children in schools has not went unnoticed either. The New Republican Movement will take immediate action against anyone who threatens our ways of life and the safety of our women and children. We have your addresses and know your movements. Every one of you are legitimate targets as of today. The New Republican Movement, 28/11/25.
Okay.
I wanted
And
to get it off quickly because YouTube doesn't like the GUNs.
if the elites or the politicians in Europe keep not listening to the people, you're going to see groups like that sprout up. I mean, you are
If it's real, it might just be
if it's real,
kids playing around.
But I'm going to assume it's real because I've been kind of thinking that was going to happen for a long time now. It wouldn't surprise me that it happened in Ireland just because the people are so separated from the politicians.
And also the overreach that the Irish government has had over the people. Several times we reported on it since last year and since before then. it started with censorship bills, and now it's continued on with just completely destroying the moral fabric and what makes Ireland and the Irish society what it is.
Yeah.
With censorship, with restrictions, with imposing upon their own citizens. So, I mean, it's not surprising. Is it real? Is it true? Who knows? YouTube don't get mad at us for showing the video, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We can move on to the, maybe do you want to move on to one of the regions, Canada or Europe?
If you want, I mean, there's still a few things. I guess this would be US. There's
Okay.
the TPUSA thing.
Yeah, we can go into that.
Okay. And you've been following this a bit more than I have because I'm still waiting for actual facts to come out. But from Natalie Jean Beisner, Tim Pool says, TPUSA is absolutely reeling. I've been talking to a handful of people behind the scenes, and I'll give them some respect by not saying their names, but everyone's very pessimistic.
Yeah, and this clip was actually, it was from, I think, Friday or something like that. But over the weekend, a lot more information came out about TPUSA, and it's kind of looking like Charlie didn't know what was going on in TPUSA. He appointed a new
CFO.
Yeah, CFO to kind of go over the books. They reported to him once he had more time. He was actually going to go in and he was calling a meeting, but then he lost his life. So it looks like maybe he didn't know what was happening. He wanted to clear house and then he kind of lost his life. It's very interesting. There's something called Wolf and Finances.
He's a
Well, he did a very good investigation. He went out to where TPUSA is actually registering, where they're sending $1.5 million. It's a strip mall. They say they own every unit in the strip mall, and it's actually their headquarters. That's not the case. It's the Panda Express. It's a Safeway and a bunch of other businesses.
And I'll continue on the line that Tim has kind of taken on this whole issue, where he has seen and gone over the videos and the conspiracy videos of those financial reports, of the things that seem murky. And yes, Turning Point has not been, especially after, for example, uninviting him, has not been the same institution or the same thing that it was when Charlie was there. And there's a lot of rumors and gossip mill, and I will say I continue to support Charlie himself and his message, but I do think that Turning Point had been, going astray for a little bit, even when Charlie was still here. But with the whole actual financial gossip and what's actually happening behind the scenes, I will once again say, wait until actual documentation comes out.
Well, maybe I'll talk about a little bit about the gossip. If he had uncovered this and he was trying to root it out before his death, he probably talked to his wife about it. His wife is now the CEO. She may be trying to root a lot of this out and working with different people to kind of expose TPUSA to clean it up from the inside out, maybe. I would love to see if TPUSA ends up being corrupt, that it is cleaned up and it is turned to a good organization. It's not too late to save it.
But again, why couldn't she just fire everybody without having to do all this covert operations?
You can open yourself up to lawsuits and a lot of other things. You can't just go around firing everybody and anybody, especially when these people, if she goes out and fires them without exposing why she's firing them, they would reveal the books, and a lot of that would fall on her head as well.
And unfortunately, with TPUSA, Charlie really, when he was starting it and when he was going to college campuses, etc., he had his ear to the ground with the youth and with what the younger people that could vote or would vote were thinking and what they were demanding. And that also did a great service to Trump and to the movement and MAGA and etc., and even during elections. However, now it does seem like they completely lost that ear to the ground and have no idea what the youth are actually saying. And that is why I think figures like Candace and Nick and Tucker are becoming more attractive, because they're saying the things that people want to hear, even though they might not be true.
Well, a lot of the leaders within the TPUSA,
or they might be bad ideas.
A lot of the leaders within the TPUSA movement before Charlie passed away were bringing up the issue of Israel, and Charlie was trying to navigate that and navigate both sides and keep both sides online. That being said, since his passing, a lot of people have been going to TPUSA events, and they are outright stating that this is a Christian Zionist organization. A lot of other things that are being spouted at these TPUSA events. People are very angry and they're very surprised, and they're taking to social media to talk about their experiences going to these TPUSA events since Charlie has passed away.
And that's the ear to the ground that they've lost. I do think too many people have Israel derangement syndrome, and they do go at it a little bit too hard. I do agree with each country first, putting itself first, and the US stop funding things that they shouldn't be involved in, and Mexico putting their citizens first, etc. But I do think it goes a little bit too far. And there's a bunch of other countries and entities that the US and other governments are funding or sending money to that could be going to their own citizens, yet they're not looked at as like with such a microscope as Israel is. Because I think Israel gives a very good example of what people are sick and tired of. But again, I think just mentioning that one also puts you in the camp of the ones that start saying, oh, this is the Zionist movement.
Well, the America First movement, I think, doesn't just want to defund Israel. They say that's what they want, but they'll want to defund funding from Egypt, Jordan, and a lot of other countries and just focus on America, and I think that's pretty fair. That being said, it does raise a lot of questions when the organization really starts preaching that message, and a lot of the money trail is leading back to potential Israel. So,
but then going into the actual conspiracy theories of, oh, it was the French Foreign Legion and Israel together that ended Trump, that's a little bit too extreme.
I don't think it's too extreme, and I want to see Candace follow through on that. So
I'd love to see her follow through on it. That's all I'm asking for her to do, is to follow through on all her claims. Let's see what Tim says. Oh, there's no sound. Or we have no sound.
I think we have no sound.
No, because I can hear you, which means we have sound.
We'll try to play another
No,
clip.
not that one, because YouTube will get mad at us for that one. Let's try to see if Russell Brand is at least. No.
No, go into your settings and then go to the Roadcaster if you can.
Hold on. No, because we are connected to that. I can see it here. Our sound is going through the road.
Okay, is your computer on mute? The entire computer?
No. Let me see if it works now. No. Is our headphones muted?
No.
People, if someone's in the chat.
Okay, well, let's just
too shy.
continue. I guess without the
Let me
clip.
try to reload it. It might be that. It might be X. No, it's not X.
Okay.
No.
We'll just continue with the stories that we have without the clips then.
Yes. Let me try to see if I can fix it, though. Because it should work now.
Well, we have no viewers now. This is why I said just continue with the.
Well, we've had 5 to 6 this whole time. I've been checking.
We have one now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so continuing to the next one. I guess I can read this one because it's pretty long, and I guess it explains what Russell was saying. So from Commute, Russell Brand just delivered one of the most chilling wake-up calls of 2025, and it's only 2 minutes long. We still picture tyranny with mustaches, shiny jackboots, and red black flags and Nuremberg parades. But the new totalitarianism doesn't goose step. It arrives like a gentle fog slipping under
Okay,
the door.
we don't need to read it. It would be best if he said it. Let's go into the actual stories. So not the opening segments that I put, but we have it divided by country. We can go into those ones.
Hold on, let me actually go to it.
And I think we'll start with the U.S.
Yes, I'm going to it. Hold on. Okay. So from Real Robert, conspiracy theory no more. Stephen Miller says the Democrat Party via the Biden-Harris terrorist administration devised a scheme to import illegal aliens into the country by the millions, granting them parole, which gives them work permits, which gives them social security numbers, which gives them access to the voting booth, and finally hooking them up on welfare like Hunter Biden hooked on substances, all with the sole purpose of participating in the U.S. elections and ultimately overthrowing the constitutional republic of the U.S.
The key here was giving them parole as illegal aliens coming across the border, which would grant them a social security number. And then we seen what was happening during the Biden administration. The documentation has now kind of been uncovered. They were flying these people around to every different state, basically rigging the election or potentially rigging the election by putting specific voters that you know are going to vote Democrat in those states, really being able to swing states. And I think that's why you've really seen them flying them and busing them around the nation, which you hadn't seen before. And we're talking about 11 million voters there.
Do you want me to try to play the clip or no?
No, it's not going to work.
Okay.
You can try if you want.
No, so next. Hold on.
Oh, why don't you see if there's sound?
No, hold on.
Okay, that's good.
No?
No.
Okay. So let's move on to the UK now. From Tommy Robinson, if jailing the young mother, Lucy Connolly, for a deleted social media post wasn't enough, her children are now being prevented from schooling because of her political views. Activist teachers, the same as activist judges, need to be removed from all institutions.
Yeah, and
that's Tommy Robinson.
This is very interesting because she's making tweets. It's understandable if, especially in a country like the UK that wants to have censorship and has arrested 12,000 people for different things they're posting on the internet, such as memes. So it's one thing if you want to punish her. It's another thing to not allow her kids into school. That's completely ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to even punish her in the first place. Mm-hmm. But now that they're going a step further, they're personing these people, whether it's them or their children. And I mean, these are really severe consequences for simply speaking your mind.
And we have spoken about in Canada and a lot of these quasi-socialist governments, and what they have been doing is also undermining parents and taking away parental rights to they themselves then educate the children. And they have said in Canada, for example, that parents are to be, friends and they're to listen to their children, but that they have no actual permission to educate their children or to be the actual ones that hold the rights over their children.
Okay, I'm going to try to turn off the sound and then turn it back on and see what happens. So maybe we can have...
Well, I mean, the next one is an article, so... Okay.
The computer sound to the roadcaster. Let's see what happens.
Okay, I think now, hold on. Nope, I need to check the sound first. Hold on. This is what it's like before we actually go live.
It's been a while since we had a major mistake like me not turning on one of the microphones. That used to happen all the time. I used to get so pissed after the show.
You want to see if this one works?
Let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, then...
She was due to start a new school.
So
turn it down a little bit. It's really loud now.
Well, I think it's loud for you and I because you turned up our headphone volume. I think it's normal for most people.
The headphone volume is actually lower than normal.
Okay, then.
It's what they call an off-site direction. It was almost like an agreement between her current school and this other school. It's like a 6-week placement. They see how they get on. And then we speak at the end of it to see whether the new school is more suited or they go back to the original school. So it's an ideal situation, really. So the school had arranged this between them. We'd gone in to see the new school. We'd had a meeting. This was on the Wednesday. Edie got on really well. She met with the deputy head. It was all given the go-ahead. We signed paperwork. As far as we were concerned and as far as Edie was concerned, she was starting the school on the following Monday. So she was given a start date of the 17th of November. She was looking forward to going. As I said, we think she needed a fresh start. Not that the school she's in haven't been brilliant, because they really have. They've been really supportive. But sometimes people just need a fresh start, don't they? So, all good to go. Signed the paperwork, had the meeting. The following evening, the Thursday evening, it was quite late. I was in the gym and I got a phone call from 2 of the teachers at our current school who I happen to get on quite well with and I have a good relationship with them. And they said, we've got some bad news, Lucy. We're really sorry, but they've pulled Edie's place. And I said, well, why? What do you mean they've pulled her place? They can't just pull her place. They've told her she's starting. And they were like, you could tell they felt really awkward. And they just said, do you know what? We're just going to come out and say it because, we're always honest with you. We've got a good relationship. So the long and short of it is the head teacher found out that, who you were. She's put a block on the offside direction, on the move. In a roundabout way, she said, racism doesn't go down well in their school. And if the other children found out who Edie's mother was, there might be a ruckus. So I was like,
okay, and that's good.
And that's why I always say homeschool. Just start homeschooling now.
Well, not everybody can.
If you can. And if you can, and you still are young and don't have kids yet, you should try to start planning your life around homeschooling.
Yeah, and it's a shame that one radical teacher can really impact a young child's life like that. I mean, this was the actions of her mother. I agreed with the actions of her mother. I had no problem with it, but just because somebody disagrees with it, they're going to punish the kids for it. And we see the government doing a lot of overreach like this, especially in the UK as well. Okay, let's go into Europe. Let's actually go into...
we were on Europe. We were in the UK. But Sneaky Beanie says, came over here. Rumble doesn't let me comment. It's psychic. Why doesn't it let you? This happened last time too.
On Rumble?
Yeah, on RUMBLE. With my Spanish show. For some reason, people weren't able to comment on there either. So... sorry about that.
Well, there's been a lot of censorship on YouTube lately. They're banning a ton of creators. They banned...
because they're using AI to determine who... let me see if I can...
yeah, they banned 21 million accounts, I believe it was, this week or this month alone.
Yes.
So it's a crazy amount. A lot of people are losing their channels. They're really turning a lot of their systems over to AI, and I think that's what's happening with the chat as well. But
it's weird that on RUMBLE it's happening, because it's been happening for a week now. But thank you for commenting. Thank you for coming here and letting us know it's not working there either.
And maybe that's why we have so few comments today, because we usually have quite a few comments.
No, but he's saying he can't comment on Rumble.
No, and now maybe they can't comment on you. A lot of people can't probably comment on YouTube as well. Anyway, that being said, if you can comment, feel free. We will read them.
And it is crazy what's happening with YouTube and with them overly relying on AI, but then not wanting to rectify the situation. It would be fine, and it's happened before, where they either ban stuff or they ban whole accounts, whole videos, channels, etc. But then they reinstate them when they realize through the human review that they apparently don't do anymore, and they're just having AI do the human review as well. It's crazy that they're not doing anything to actually support and help the creators that they've banned. Some of them very small, but some of them huge. And some people that were just using YouTube to watch things. They weren't even posting on it.
Well, Jeremy from The Quartering actually did a full segment on this. And
Clownfish TV too, and that's actually pretty interesting.
That's kind of where I became aware of the situation that was going on. But YouTube is really going more and more corporatist, away from smaller creators. And I think they're going to continue to go that way. They're also going more towards AI. That being said, I mean, I think there is going to be a thirst for human content. And if they don't capitalize on it, they're going to leave a huge hole in the market for somebody else. I know Rumble's initial hole was free speech. So that's how they kind of built that platform, but they were only able to build it so big. If they can start really focusing on human creators, I think that's the next hole that may be kind of created, or maybe it's intentionally going to be left by the wayside by YouTube for a bigger profit model. So a smaller platform could actually benefit a lot from that. So hopefully Rumble does.
Yes, but at the same time, RUMBLE does have to fix a lot of the issues that they have, especially with the UI and with glitching and etc. if there will be a bigger migration of people going towards Rumble because they've been banned or because their creators have been banned, etc.
Yeah, they got a really bad UI, not only for users of the platform, but content creators as well. So hopefully they fix that over time. YouTube is constantly improving their user interface.
But what's interesting as well with these latest bans that are clearly done by AI, I mean, I'll say apparently, or that's what is being said, but who knows, but that AI is taking over because it's not just banning channels like we've seen massive bans before, but of certain political content or of certain topics or certain subjects that YouTube didn't want on the platform anymore. Now they're just banning everyone because it's AI and it doesn't understand. So a lot of other types of creators, not just political content or content that could be censored, might be looking for a platform, and that would actually really benefit Rumble because Rumble has been lacking in any other sort of content that's not either conspiracy theories or political content, which is why a lot of people don't end up staying on the platform because there's no makeup tutorials and there's no people doing food challenges and stuff like that.
Well, they need to build up their user base in order to bring more money in so then they can properly build out the platform. I mean, I think they're doing the best they're doing, and I am really grateful that Rumble's even there and they do focus on the base being free speech. Hopefully they always keep that base of free speech, but they just need to slowly build out from there. And I know they're trying to get bigger content creators like Tim Pool, and they're doing a lot of live streaming stuff on there. So I do appreciate there is an alternative. But you can look at even Twitch. Who owns Twitch? Amazon. Amazon has a lot of money, but they're just not putting it there. And you really think they would, because YouTube is becoming massive.
And I initially learned about this from Cody Dennison, who was on Timcast and with Tim Pool, and explained the situation that he was actually losing money from YouTube. YouTube was taking money away from him because there were some people that were doing cashbacks on
I
Super
told you
Chat
about
they
this, and you
sent.
said that wasn't happening.
No, I said, Cody, yes, it happened to Cody Dennison. But I said it's not supposed to happen because YouTube even has in its little rule book that they can't, that if you send a super chat, you can't take it back. I think through the bank you might be able to, but then YouTube and the bank are the ones that cover the losses. However, it's crazy that they're doing this to creators, smaller and bigger, and that it's not motivated by anything apparently other than AI. And because they're at the top, we've seen the figures these past few months, they're at the top of TV and streaming. Like they have the biggest chunk of the pie right now.
But you have to figure they're doing
And they're
21,
just throwing it out to the wayside.
21 million channels they've gotten rid of. Like, even if they had to have human reviewers, they wouldn't be able to do that. That's just a ton of people they would need. And what Jeremy from the Accordion was kind of implying, they're doing it in the fourth quarter because that's when the most ad revenue is. So they'll get a lot of these creators to create content and never have to actually giving them the ad revenue.
Luckily, I've been really slow on creating actual long form videos. We just live stream for now because it does take a while. I've been still working on the Spanish ones. I will start working on the English ones as well, and we will have edited long form content. And we're also working on our TikTok and our a lot of Instagram, all the other platforms as well, which I keep promising, but it's just the two of us, so it does take time.
But I do appreciate everybody that has been coming to our live streams, especially lately. They've been getting a lot bigger, and we've been getting a lot more audience interaction with comments, which, man, is really great, because I used to watch your Spanish show, and you get a lot of comments there, and it helps the show flow a lot better.
Yes. And Rafa, hello, Rafa. Speaking of Spanish content and lots of comments, Rafa says hello, and Sneaky Beanie says, welcome, welcome. Let's go. So let's go over, well, we were in Europe and the UK, but let's go to Italy now, which is interesting because from Reuters, Italy presses ahead with claim on central bank's 300 billion gold pile.
Okay,
and I'll read into it too, so we can understand it a bit better. So Italian ruling lawmakers intend to press ahead with a claim that the central bank's 300 billion in gold reserves could belong to the state, a senator said on Thursday, despite widespread concern that the move could breach EU rules. Senator Lucio Malan from Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's Brothers of Italy party told broadcaster Radio 24 the initiative was aimed at preventing the gold reserves from being improperly used in the future. So they want to remove it from the EU central bank.
This isn't just about gold. This is about the EU getting back their sovereignty. They created this. They created this entity of the EU, which was supposed to be economic cooperation, and it's turned into something that's really taken the sovereignty away from these countries. We're seeing Meloni and Viktor Orban especially trying to cut independent deals away from the EU with the United States, with Russia for their energy purposes and stuff like that, really putting their own countries first and their peoples first. I think if they ever want to separate from the EU, they're going to need to have those independent deals, but they're also going to need to get their money back from the EU, because the EU could become insolvent really quickly here, especially with the state that the UK specifically and France has been in lately. So grabbing your money back from these EU banks and trying to create sovereignty and potentially separating from the EU if needed. The EU is becoming much more authoritarian. They're forcing a lot of these countries to force the leaders within the independent countries to strip freedoms from their actual citizens, and it's not creating anything good.
Well, the one ounce is so cute. Sorry, I was just looking at the picture. But also with gold, there has been a lot of movement lately, and there have been a lot of plans that have been set forth by, for example, China, and what they plan to do with the yuan and digital currency, and how they want to, and maybe Saudi Arabia backing it with gold now. And we've seen gold shoot up, and also silver. Silver's been going down a bit, but, well, not down, but it hasn't continued its growth like it was.
Yeah, this fake debt system that's being created where they're just printing money and everybody has debt, so we're all in it together. So if the ship sinks, we're all going down. I think eventually a lot of these debts are going to have to be erased. I think we're going to need to go back to some kind of gold standard. And even if you have a digital currency, you want it to be backed with gold. As people know, I'm very much against digital ID and digital currency, but I do realize it may be a reality. The best we can maybe do if these countries do force it in is tell them we don't want the same currency system where they can just print debt and indent their entire civilization and all their people under the thumb of the government. We want it backed by gold itself.
Well, and I continue to say that's why I think that the debt specifically and how everything essentially runs on debt and on fake money, that is why people are moving away and seeing capitalism as a problem, which it wasn't when it wasn't reliant on debt, both for countries and for individual citizens. But since they moved towards that, and since they messed around with interest rates and messed around with bank loans and the way banks can actually function, but also the exchange, the stock trade and everything else. Since that changed around the 80s, 90s, but then full force around the 2000s, then they saw the crash with the 2008 mortgage crisis, but then they continued on and it's been that way forever. And now that services are actually continuing to appear like Klarna and Afterpay and all of those things that indebt you even for tiny little things, it's continuing to grow, but it's not sustainable. And at a certain point, it will crash or people will get tired of it and continue down the path of Nick Fuentes' National Socialism, which also doesn't make sense.
Well,
or is not good for the people.
We're already talking about like there is a lot of problems with capitalism, but it could go if it was just on the same path that we would kind of go forward with. That being said, like AI is coming in and it could absolutely devastate the job market. If that happens, we're going to maybe have to readjust how we look at society. And like, if nobody has jobs or very few people have jobs, how does the society even stay alive? How do we function? How is housing given out? It can't just be given out to the people that have money. I mean,
right now it's not even given out to people that have money. It's given out to people that can get loans, which is fake money.
Right now, we're not in that situation, but every single AI expert is talking about super intelligence is a couple of years away. And once that happens, the jobs are literally completely wiped out. If that happens, I mean, yeah.
Doom and gloom.
Let's go into...
But actual doom and gloom from Naomi Saved Emergency, Antifa Civil War. Today, Antifa is tearing apart the entire city of Gießen in Germany to protest against the formation of an AfD youth group. 57,000 protesters are expected to show up under the motto, Gießen must burn. Up to 6,000 police officers are being deployed. We pay taxes, well, they pay taxes for leftist NGOs to be behind the civil warfare. The violence is already spreading. Young AfD members are under attack, fearing for their lives.
And we'll play the clip real quick, and then we'll talk about this. This actually broke late on Friday night, and it was a shame that it broke after we went off the air, because this is actually major breaking news. The AfD, they attempted to debank them in Germany because it's a right-wing party. I think they're continuing with the debanking right now. They tried to ban them as a party. They weren't able to legally do that. So now what they're doing is the left-wing power structure in Germany is now sending out their stormtroopers, which is Antifa. We've seen this happen in the United States somewhat, but
and in Mexico.
They're no longer able to hold down the AfD in Germany. So now they're trying to do it by other means, by threatening the youth that are kind of supporting that party.
And that's literally what just happened in Mexico a few weeks ago and continues to happen. It's all in German.
Okay, and there was actually quite a few clips that I chose not to take because they were a lot more violent. That was the beginning of the protest. As it went on, it was not a good situation. That being said, the AfD is having a major rise. It's really gaining support in all segments of society. They've already done everything they can do to shut down that party. I don't think they're going to be able to. Come the next election, I think they're going to have quite a say on what happens within the country.
Let's move over to Ukraine, I guess. From Concerned Citizen Zelensky, says Steve Bannon, Zelensky is a crook, and you will soon see why Ukraine is rated as the third most corrupt country in the world. you live in this fantasy that you have unlimited resources to send to Ukraine. Steve Bannon didn't get invited back on the UK legacy media after dropping truth bombs about Ukraine. And now it's talking about the revelations of it.
Yeah, well, as this peace negotiation kind of goes back and forth, we'll see if they end up actually getting a peace. But what it looks like is they're doing major corruption investigations into not only Zelensky, but a lot of his higher ups. They're either going to jail or they're having to quit and go into exile. That being said, I think Trump is applying the pressure by saying, we know you stole the money. The rumor is that Zelensky will go to Israel. He'll get immunity for a lot of the money that he potentially stole. And that's the way you're going to get peace within Ukraine. Because a lot of that money is stored in EU banks, and the EU is telling Zelensky, if you don't go along with continuing this war, you're never going to see that money.
Do you not think Zelensky should have a say-so in the future of his own country?
I do not believe Zelensky. Because first off, he's 16%. He's not even democratically elected. Right now, if EU wants a part of the table, listen, if Zelensky wants a part of the table, have the United Kingdom step up, have France step up. Van der Leyen is saying you're going to do $800 billion defense raise. Have the people in the United Kingdom should ask, can you send 30,000 troops? This is not about the quality of British troops. Your valor and courage is unquestioned.
Signals that we would put troops on the ground.
Your valor and courage is unquestioned. You're in financial distress right now. You're very close to having a sovereign debt crisis. You don't have the money. You're totally underwater. Your economy's not performing. And you live in this fantasy, both the Tories and the Labour Party, just like Macron, that you have unlimited resources to send to Ukraine. The Russian army in 3 years had 800,000 casualties, has not taken Kharkiv, has not even gotten close to Kiev. They can't cross Poland. They can't go into Germany. You're living in a fantasy land. And somebody's got to talk some hard realities to the people of Europe of what you're actually about to take on. Zelensky is untrustworthy. He's a crook and a punk. And he showed what a punk he was in the Oval Office the other day. He should never be allowed back in. I don't think he should ever be allowed back in to the United States.
I think a lot of people would disagree with you on the point that President Zelensky is a crook and a punk. There were democratic elections.
I don't care if people agree with me. I don't care if people agree with me or not. I don't care if people agree.
The point of principle here is that Russia invaded a sovereign country.
We've sent $250 billion to Ukraine. $250 billion. President Trump says $350. $250. He says he can only account for $88 billion. We want a full investigation of where every penny went that the United States sent. And once that's done, you'll see why they're rated the third most corrupt country in the world.
Yeah, and come 2028, Bannon is going to really be a key element into whoever wins that 2028 election. He's really the one that got Trump in the first time, got him in the third time, and really set a lot of his policies. He really understands the populist movement when it comes especially to the United States, but also in Europe and a lot of regions in South America. He has been very instrumental in getting Milei in there, getting Trump in there, getting Orban in there. I mean, getting some of the best leaders that we have around the world and trying different things.
I don't know if I'd call Milei one of the best, but...
Well, he had there was a lot of hope with Milei in the beginning, and he has had quite a few scandals, but at least he's trying things that haven't been tried before. Hopefully, he's able to re-steer the ship and go away from this corporatist path he's kind of going down. The same with Trump. He's starting to go down a corporatist path. Stay true to your populist base.
And Sneaky Beanie says, Mamdani gives me Zelensky vibes, no lie. Same as Trudeau, same as a lot of these weird socialists that came up through essentially the arts or making music or being a drama teacher and having drama careers.
Well, and they just seem like puppets. And the one that's puppeteering Zelensky the most is the EU, because they're the ones that hold the money that he's trying to hide, that he wants to be able to rely on once he's done with this war. He sold out his country. I mean, it was one thing if you wanted to try to stand up and fight. They had a peace deal. They let Boris Johnson come in and literally rip up the peace deal. And what have they done since then? Lost more land, lost more lives. I mean, cut your losses and let as much as Ukraine survive as you can. You still have Odessa. You still have a port and a way to the sea, which means you still have a viable economy. But if you continue this war, it's not going to go in any good direction.
And there were a lot of investigations and documentaries. Who knows how actually truthful they were. But even before or almost at the start of the war, they started becoming popular again, describing and showing the actual insane corruption that had been happening in Ukraine since the color revolutions and since the US started to get more and more involved, even way before, like during Trump, but also way before then.
Yeah, I mean, and the Ukraine put themselves in this situation by playing all sides off each other. It's such a corrupt country. They wanted to be corrupt with the Russians, take money from that side. Then they wanted to be corrupt with the Russian energy, take some more money. Then they wanted to play the Russians off the Europeans. Let's take some more money. I mean, they were playing all sides off each other. They got caught in the middle, and it's understandable why that war kind of happened, but now it's time to put it to rest. You're going to lose some of your country at this point.
But Europe will continue to support because Europe needs that war.
Europe desperately needs a war. Their entire economy is about to collapse. They're reliant on that war for so many reasons. They're the only group really pushing that war forward. I watch a lot of Ukrainian people on the ground, soldiers that make videos and post them online, and they want this war to end at this point.
Now we're moving over to our former home, Canada, which is more in the dumps than before, and there's a bunch of there's a debt crisis coming. Essentially, they're already in a depression, and they have no idea it's happening. But let's talk specifically about Danielle Smith, because a few years ago, when the Alberta separatist thing started to come out, I said, wait and see what she actually does, because as a lot of other conservatives have done in Canada, she might backtrack and she might actually end up wanting to not lose the power she has and just continue with her post. If Alberta were to separate, then she wouldn't be involved and wouldn't be a part of the Canadian government anymore.
Well, I pump Danielle Smith up a lot on this channel. I constantly say she's probably the best female politician on a global basis, maybe Maloney as well. That being said, she's been quite the disappointment in just recent days with this pipeline deal that is really not a pipeline deal at all. She's selling out the people of Alberta, of Calgary, of Edmonton. She looks like she's starting to unite with the federal government and really not go after this Alberta separatist movement like she should. She wants to claim that she's with the Alberta separatist movement, but she also wants a united Canada. I mean, she's starting to talk out of both sides of her mouth, and she's gained a lot of trust with the Canadian people because she was good for so long. She was putting herself in a strategic position so that the federal government would come along and give her and her friends as much as she could get, I guess.
So from David Creighton, yikes, watch Danielle Smith booed over Carney pipeline deal. Carney said the deal comes with a huge increase to industrial carbon tax. That's not going to work for Alberta. And we continue to say Alberta has been stomped by and used by the rest of Canada.
I'm going to use the bathroom real quick.
Alberta has been, you don't have to announce it to the world. Alberta has been used essentially as the bank for the rest of Canada, where they are the ones that produce the most things, or at least the things that garner and get the most money, but then that money gets sent directly, almost directly, to Ottawa and to all the other rest of the provinces that can't produce at that same level. So of course Albertans and Alberta are completely sick and tired of it. However, within the conservative person they have in Danielle Smith, at first, she was going to help, and she did want to start and implement a way to actually do, for example, a separatist vote or a referendum. And she even changed some of the policy that did go around that for that to be able to happen. However, now she recently, just last week, I think, signed or started talking about a pipeline deal with from the government of Canada with Alberta, which would essentially undermine everything Albertans have been complaining and saying.
We definitely want a pipeline, but the things that were smuggled in on this deal, she's giving everything away, such as carbon taxes and things like this before a pipeline's even built. And there's plenty of escape hatches for the federal government to not follow through with the pipeline.
As you know, I support a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. I know we might have a bit of a difference of opinion on that, but I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
And she got booed here. And replay it.
Sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. I know we might have a bit of a difference of opinion.
She says, I support a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, meaning she wants to carve out special deals for Alberta, gun rights. We want this pipeline, but we're going to stay with Canada and stop applying pressure because we're a united Canada. That's not what the people of Alberta want to hear right now. The separatist movement is really strong, especially where she's speaking here. So the fact that she got booed is no surprise to me. She's been a great leader up to this point, but now I think she's cashing in her chips and she's going to just be another puppet on Mark Carney's strings.
Which is what I said would happen. happen. She would go along, and all the people within the Alberta government would go along with the whole separatist thing, and then eventually shut the door on that and say, no, I mean, we're going to get better deals for us, but we're going to stay in Canada. This whole separation thing is just about doing it from having to support the federal government through all our productive work, but don't worry about it. We won't.
Well, and they're having the vote next year on whether Alberta's going to separate or not. So now's the time they want to put her in her pocket so they can get everything in line, get the propaganda machine in line, so nobody votes to separate and Canada stays under the thumb of Mark Carney.
And again, that both might not happen. As I said, it might not. A year ago. But let's continue on with Daniel Smith. Hold on, I just have to check everything's gonna work. And from Mark Nixon, we use him a lot. He has a lot of interesting and important information about Canada, so go follow him if you don't. But Mark Nixon says Danielle Smith just announced the Alberta Sovereignty in a United Canada Act. Alberta will refuse the Liberal gun grab and introduce a castle law protecting your right to defend your home. However, again, it's within Alberta, being with it still in Canada.
Well, yeah, this was actually a good policy. When I first read it, I actually really liked this policy. This is a good thing, but you see what she did after this was announced. She's now just talking about a united Canada, a united Canada. Canada is giving Alberta a couple carve-outs, still expecting billions of dollars to be sent to Eastern Canada, while Albertans really suffer. It's time for Alberta to separate. Don't buy these couple carve-outs that she's managed to get.
And I don't know if we said it, but Daniel Smith is a premier of Alberta, which is kind of like the governor of Alberta.
I'm announcing today that next week, our UCP government will be introducing a new motion under the Alberta Sovereignty within a United Canada Act that will, if passed in the legislature, instruct all provincial entities, including our municipalities and law enforcement agencies, to refuse to enforce or prosecute under the federal gun seizure program.
And you can stop it there. And I'm just going to say this. Canada is going to go confiscate everybody else's guns, and then they're going to save Alberta for last because they're sovereign. They don't want them to separate. As soon as they vote to stay with the rest of Canada, there goes their guns, there goes their oil pipeline, there goes everything else. They're not going to deliver on any of these promises. They're promising Alberta. They're also going to continue to take the billions of dollars away from Alberta. They're not sovereign if they're still going to keep sending billions of dollars to the federal government.
And if they're still within Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, if Canada did work more like the US did, where states have, or provinces have a lot more sovereignty over their own laws and the way that they decide to function, then great. And I think that's what she's trying to do. But I think she's only trying to do it to quell down the actual sovereignty talk and the actual sovereignty ideas and say, well, there's a way where we can get kind of like what the US has, but still stay within Canada because, of course, that's more beneficial to the political class.
Yeah, and we're starting to see the beginning of her transition, and where she's saying sovereign, but part of a united Canada. She wants to confuse people with their language. If people really look into it, I believe this is...
That's what the whole damn act is called. That's what they called the Alberta Sovereign, but within Canada Act.
And Pierre Poilievre's there now. He won back his seat within a region of Alberta. I believe he's going to get on board with this United Canada Front. If they were serious about the people of Alberta, they would actually stand up to the federal government here and say, no, this is our chance to actually be free, especially when you can play one player off of the other being the United States. And the United States is willing to support Alberta's sovereignty right now.
And same as with Erin O'Toole, we continue to see that the Conservative Party in Canada is not actually a Conservative Party or a real opposition to any of the other crazy ones. The only real opposition that has no chance ever to go anywhere, unfortunately, is the People's Party of Canada, which I don't fully support either, but they were the only ones that were actually talking about the importance and serious matters that a lot of Canadians were concerned about, but the Conservative Party had ignored for a long time. However, they've been blocked at every turn by all the other parties, including the federal government.
Well, and that was Maxime Bernier that actually led that movement.
Yes.
Viva Fry from Viva Fry channel. Great Canadian. He now lives in the States, but he actually ran for politics within that party.
He's a lawyer.
And he supported Maxime Bernier. His partner on YouTube is...
His partner.
Well,
the person he does the show with is called Robert Barnes. He's a constitutional lawyer. And they're
he's great.
Yeah, we've been following them or watching them for a long time. But let's see her again. Daniel Smith get booed. Sean Amato says Alberta's premier telling her UCP AGM to lower our fists and work with Canadians on building a stronger nation. Seem to be about 50-50 boos versus applause there. Some here tell me there's still very much want to separate from Canada and there should be a vote. I don't think there's going to be a vote. I've been saying this since the beginning, and people's hopes were just, they put people's hopes up just to crush them down.
They support different political parties are nonetheless supporting Alberta's vision for a prosperous, energy-rich nation with strong and sovereign provinces, building a Canada we can be proud of again. Now is not the time to get.
Okay. And the fact that she's trying to unite with Canada, like, man, she could have really made a statement to just continue to stand up to Mark Carney. Mark Carney is playing her like an absolute fiddle right now. Mark Carney's not winning maybe in the situation either. A lot of people from his party are starting to not like the relationship he's building with Alberta. He has to build that relationship in order to keep Canada whole. If Alberta separates, Canada falls. But as soon as they have that vote and they say they're going to stay part of Canada, that's it. He's going to take back all of his empty promises.
Of course. And Sneaky Beanie says he. Ha ha ha. And then he or she, Sneaky Beanie also says Viva Fry is great for real.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you mostly just like Barnes.
Well, I used to watch it because he was from Canada, and we actually started our channel during the trucker protest by going down to the border, and we were just kind of showing what was going on, trying to do something to kind of save the country and fight off the authoritarianism that was happening there. That being said, we were watching other content creators at the time that were doing similar things.
At other trucker convoy throughout the provinces.
And Viva was one of those people, and he was good at that time, but eventually he linked up with Robert Barnes, which was the best constitutional attorney in the United States. And man, there's not a better content creator than him. And
you do disagree with him on a lot, though.
I do, but I disagree with everybody.
Yes. And that's what I always say as well. Like, you shouldn't be in complete agreement with anybody you watch, consume, read, etc. Always having that discerning angle.
Yeah, like all three people that were on the cover of the thumbnail today, Candace, Nick, and JD Vance, I like them all, but I disagree with them on a lot of things. And once in a while, they're bang spot on with some things too.
Once in a while. I mean, what's that phrase? The clock?
I don't think it's that. No, they're right more often than they're wrong. At least a lot of them.
But let's see someone that continues to disappoint, which is Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada. From Bruce McGonigal, Pierre Poilievre wanted to suspend immigration, refugee, and asylum seekers to Canada, then cap it based on a combination of three key metrics.
This is a great policy, actually, and when he does something right, I point it out. I'm kind of hard against him because I want him to be more of a starch conservative and actually getting in front of the issue. He very often waits a long time, waits for the polls to come out. Yes. Is this going to be appropriate? Is this not going to be appropriate? He doesn't always speak from the heart. That being said, this is a great policy, and as much as I hate the Liberal Party, I would like to see them adopt something like this if it can help Canada, and I think it really would.
And Pierre has flip-flopped on a lot of things, unfortunately, and he has still defended almost unfettered immigration. At least the past a few months ago, he was doing that still. But
he's the best politician you're going to pretty much find in Canada.
Sadly,
they're all liberals in disguise. He's the most conservative of a country that's primarily liberal.
Yes, we're going to link the number of we're going to link population growth to the number of houses, the amount of health care and jobs that are available. So we will have a mathematical formula that ensures that we never grow our population at a faster rate than we grow the availability of jobs, homes, and health care. Yes.
I mean, it's crazy because that's the way it used to be for a lot of countries, and then they forgot about it.
That's the way it used to be, and Canada used to have the best immigration system in the world. I say this quite often. Other countries like Australia, like the UK, like the EU, and even the United States used to go to Canada to study their immigration policies. Although for a lot of countries, I say they need to have a immigration moratorium, meaning they need to completely stop immigration. Canada is not one of those countries. They have a mass amount of land and they have a very, very small population. So for the good of their economy, it's one of the few countries that actually does need immigration. They need to do it in an appropriate manner. And it sounds like Pierre Poilievre is actually pitching the system that they used to have before everything went off the rails.
Imagine that. However, things do continue to go off the rails because from Wiretap Media, Canadians can expect an influx of refugees and asylum seekers more. In the new year, Haitians are coming.
Yeah, and this is very true. And it's not just Haitians. Donald Trump's policies is going to cause a huge influx of
everybody
what was illegal immigrants into the United States will now become legal immigrants into Canada, and which will make it almost impossible to ever get rid of them.
But it's funny because Canadians that have been in Canada for a long time, be it they're citizens, they were born there, or they immigrated there at least 5 years ago or longer, are leaving in droves, and the figures are also coming out for that. So they do need to replace those people that they've exiled from their home country through their policies.
They also need to integrate them into a Canadian culture, but they've lost any resemblance of a Canadian culture they once used to have.
And that's why a lot of people are leaving. Examples 1 and 2.
Homeland Security just called for remigration, and Canadians better worry because on November 26th, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration quietly announced that DHS terminated Haiti's temporary protected status. Now, according to Homeland Security, after consulting with interagency partners and based on reviews conducted by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Haitian nationals inside the United States is inconsistent with U.S. national interests. The order is effective on February 3rd, 2026, and foreign nationals who are willing to commit to the self-deportation process will receive a free plane ticket and a $1,000 exit bonus. So Canadians better put out a protection order on our family pets and our urban wildlife, because where do you think these people are going to end up?
Okay, and it's not just Haitians this is happening to. Donald Trump is targeting a lot of groups, especially after what happened with the Afghani migrant and the U.S. soldiers in Washington, D.C. So he's going to forcefully want to deport a lot of these people. They know it. So rather than be deported and going through that whole ordeal, what he's offering is any migrants can go to an airport, declare that they want to leave. They'll receive $1,000 plus a plane ticket, not back to their home country or to their home country or to any other country that will accept them. Canada happens to be one of those countries with very lax immigration policies, and they will accept anybody just by claiming refugee status. That's all you have to say. You can actually do it on an app now to get into Canada.
Yes.
So.
Sorry, I thought I was on screen and I wasn't. I was trying to fix all the stories that we have left. Hold on. Where were we on? There we go. Oh, we've been speaking about this quite a bit, but...
Oh, what was this story about?
MAID, medical assistance in dying, the ridiculous, insane program that Canada has to help you off yourself medically with doctors.
This was actually a new wrinkle to this that I hadn't even known. I guess you have to volunteer to be an organ donor if you want to qualify for the MAID program. If you refuse to be an organ donor, they will not put you into the program of medical assisted in death
assistance.
Why? Because Canada is involved in the industrialization of organ donation and organ transplants. It's becoming a huge industry that's really benefiting the government to an extent it really should not monetize
organs, human lives,
organs, or taking its own citizens' lives.
And we had spoken a little bit about this a few weeks ago, but I think more and more people luckily are speaking out about it and the insanity that it is, that it's not just the MAID program, but what the MAID program is being used for example, to also help the never-ending crash out of the Canadian healthcare system, and now also to garner more money for the Canadian government via organ donation and what that entails, because it's not like it's all free. There is some money exchanged with organ donation.
There's a ton of money being exchanged, and it's being privatized, and they're bringing private corporations into really capitalize on this opportunity. A lot of blood and organs are actually being sent overseas.
And it's the death cult that we continue to talk about. But from Blender News, in order to have MAID, you have to say yes to organ donation. Why is that? Health Canada funds camp.
Okay, you just play the clip.
Organ donation is a huge conversation that needs to be talked about here, because people are not understanding that in order to have MAID, you have to say yes to organ donation. Why is that? Also, why are we doing death by organ donation now? I have doctors and nurses messaging me and emailing me every day being like, Kelsey, you should see, they're like making us do training on this. Like, we don't want to participate, but if we don't, we're going to be fired. I had a whistleblower on the show who was a palliative care nurse up in Kelowna who talked about they would take elderly patients that just had knee surgery and put them in a hospice, and then they would end up getting mated because there was no room for physio for them when they didn't need to die. We have nurses and doctors that are all sitting there saying, like, shut up, whatever, just kill them anyway. And I'm not even making words up. These are actual words. And then Health Canada is partnered with CanMap. So what we found is Health Canada is being funded by the government. Health Canada now is funding CanMap, which is the Canadian Association of MAID, doctor whatevers. And then they are partnered over here with Health Canada with Canadian Blood Services, which is donation and organs. So Health Canada's funding the blood and organs. Organs and blood are donating to CanMap, and now Health Canada is funding a new medical journal that is made by CanMap for just MAID, to promote only MAID to doctors. And it's all coming from the government.
Yeah, it's this is the dark side of socialized medicine, and Canada is socialized medicine and a broken healthcare system for the people, but the government is finding a way to not only profit off of it, but it's completely sadistic, the system they have kind of built up here.
And ineffective as well.
Yeah.
So that a lot of Canadians, a lot of people are always, extolling the virtues of socialized medicine and of being able to, go to the doctor for free. The Canadian healthcare system is so great. The UK health system is also falling apart. And a lot of these that were used and held up as great examples of how healthcare could actually work and be free for everybody don't work. And it's also not free because the taxes we pay in Canada are insane as well on top of it.
And this is why a Christian moral foundation is very important, especially in countries where you do have socialized medicine or other things that can go completely off the rail if you don't have a moral foundation. You shouldn't be helping people in their lives and things of this nature, especially just because they're homeless or they're financially strapped or other reasons. You should help them fix their problems rather than offer them the solution of death. A lot of veterans call the Veteran Helpline in Canada, and the first thing they are offered is the MAID program. It's a huge scandal, and it's continuing to go on to this day.
It's the loss of the value of life and understanding what the meaning and the value of a life is, hence death cult. Speaking of the death cult, from Red Pill Bot, Ursula von der Leyen commits to jibby jabbing, because I can't say that word on YouTube, over 500 million children with Bill Gates. Not surprising. I am pleased to pledge 290 million for Gavi, the Jibby Jab Alliance. Together with Gavi, we will have the goal to poke these children by 2030.
500 million children they want to engage in this with. And I will say this, I just love when Ursula von der Leyen speaks in English because she sounds like a villain.
She looks like one too.
A better world also means a healthier world. And vaccination is our best chance to do this. Vaccines have saved millions of lives in the past 50 years. But right now, millions of children are still at risk. They need vaccines. So we must continue to support vaccination around the world. And today, I am pleased to pledge $290 million for Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. Each child should be protected. And more will come. Together with Gavi, we have the goal to vaccinate 500 million children by 2030. Europe will do its fair share. You can count on us, my friends.
It's a global citizen festival that has stuff on screens that say demand equity and a bunch of different it looks dystopian, and it looks like they're trying to get people to laugh at them and finally realize how insane they are, hopefully.
And more people have been saved by proper sanitation in a lot of these third world countries than vaccines. Vaccines, it's up for debate how helpful they've actually been and which vaccines are helping more than hurting.
Yes.
Okay. What do you got for me next?
Hold on. Climate change. From Wide Awake Media, climate change alarmist tells the UN climate change has caused is caused by.
We can just play the clip. And this was very, this is another clip that is just jaw dropping when you hear it. And people just aren't going to buy into this hocus pocus they're trying to play.
When we eat meat and dairy, this is causing like 20% of all greenhouse gas emissions. So it's damaging a lot of things in the world. Climate change is caused for 20% by meat and dairy. So the producers of meat and dairy should pay for the damage they cause. That's normal. When I damage the window of my neighbor, I have to repair this damage. But meat and dairy processors also have to repair the damage they cause on others and in the future.
And that has also been disproven. Those statistic you just cited has been disproven multiple times.
Even if I go with that, anything you do is going to damage something, whether it's a car, the emissions the car puts out, accidents. Oh, so now we should not have cars, because if we allow them to get away with taking away meat and dairy, they're going to go into everything else, and it's going to become a security state. As women got more and more of the vote, we've seen the society go away from a freedom-based society and into a security state. And the government absolutely loves this idea of a security state. If they can start a few, one or two more massive wars, they're going to get rid of large swaths of the male population, which would create a monopoly within the female vote and a security state. I'm not saying that females shouldn't have the right to vote, but I would like to see something of maybe only families have the right to vote because they have a stake in the future of a country or in the world.
Yes. But also, I was going to say, I mean, they continue with this, oh, it's the cows, it's the et cetera. And I do agree that industrialized farming practices are bad, both for the animals and for the environment that they so much care about, but also for the producers themselves and small producers and small farms that actually continue along with traditions that we know have worked in this world and to produce better quality meat, better quality milk, etc., for centuries. However, industrialized farming has taken over, and I do think it is important to talk about how to get back to the regenerative farming, better farming practices that used to be just for the general public, and the quality of the meat and of the milk that are now commercially available are horrible. And that is why a lot of people are going towards raw milk or going towards locally grown, grass-fed, etc. beef. And that is an important conversation, but not through the lens of how can we profit off of demanding people to go vegan or become vegetarian or to stop the greenhouse emissions that are 20% are going into that. But that's not a statistic that is true, and it has been disproven. But how do you conserve the good practices and go back to the good farming practices without falling down the rabbit hole of climate change? We have to tax everything. You have carbon emission taxes, exemptions, etc.
Well, the government is also pushing people into these mega cities, and they're really clearing out the countryside and then buying up or having protectionist practices on farmland. So like it's pricing people out. And if there is some kind of collapse with AI where jobs become more and more scarce, one way to kind of solve that is all that land that the government is kind of hoarding, give it to the people at low or no cost so they can make their own resources. The government doesn't want that because they want complete control. We see them getting control over farming, whether that is agricultural farming or cattle farming. We need to have a safety net for society. One way to do that is only citizens should own land in a country. Corporations should be limited to the amount of land they could have. External people should not be able, that are non-citizens, should not be able to buy land in the country. Land is becoming a commodity. Most people are priced out. It takes them their whole life to even have an ability to buy a piece of property. Okay.
And it is the removal and the rejection by government of private property. And we've seen it in Canada already. They're going at it through the First Nations rulings that now allow First Nations to be owners of other people's private land and to essentially take over it.
They're either pricing people out of private property or they're infringing on land rights of private property, and then they're consolidating the farming industry into these mega farms, which big corporations or big government controls. None of this is healthy. If something goes wrong, millions of people will die. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's continue on here.
Back to Crazy Canada, but now about school. From Rebel News, and if you don't know who they are, they're a great independent journalist from Canada. sometimes disagree with them. Ontario School Board rejects award for moral courage, critical thinking, and commitment to truth. So everything that a school should be about and learning should be about and knowledge should be about. Durham District School Board says critical thinking, moral courage, and a commitment to truth are values that do not align with those of that school board. Do you want me to read through all of it? It's pretty long.
Yeah, if you don't know what's going on in Canada, they've stopped teaching critical thinking skills a long time ago. They give you approved sources. You're only allowed to read those approved sources. If you quote anything in your essay or you find a work not from approved sources, it's an automatic fail. They are building drones that will not question the hierarchy. But let's see what this...
Do you want me to read it, or should I just go all the way down?
You can play the clip.
Because it's really long. Because they go through all of the criteria.
And we won't play the whole clip. We'll just play the beginning. But
yes, it's pretty long. You can go see it on their YouTube or on their X,
which is
Rebel News.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Whitby, Ontario, and I'm standing outside the Durham District School Board headquarters. Wouldn't you think that a school board, and I mean any school board, wouldn't you think they would support such values as critical thinking, moral courage, and a commitment to truth?
Just ignite learning.
No, incredibly, the Durham District School Board does not subscribe to those values. They are on record as stating that critical thinking, moral courage, and a commitment to truth are values that, quote, do not align with those of the DDSB, end quote. Why are these not values to champion? And if those are values being rejected, what sort of values does the Durham District School Board espouse? And as you can see, I'm standing next to Lisa Robinson. She is a City of Pickering councillor. Lisa wanted to make a $500 bursary to a school, to a graduating student, and that student would exemplify those aforementioned values. And instead of being warmly welcomed, instead of being thanked, Lisa Robinson had her application rejected, and it cannot be appealed. Lisa, what's going on here?
I know, isn't that crazy, David? Yeah, you know what? Over the last couple of years, I've been acting mayor for the city of Pickering, and I've had the honor of attending these graduation ceremonies for, you know, a couple of the different schools there in Pickering, the high schools. At that time, I also get to give them a bursary on behalf of the city of Pickering. So this year I decided I was going to create my own bursary, and it would be called the Truth and Courage Bursary. And with that, it would go to any student, as you said, who shows moral courage, critical thinking, and a commitment to the truth. It would be for any student who isn't afraid to ask questions, who speaks up respectfully, who, you know, stands firm on his or her beliefs without cowering to, you know, other people with opposing opinions.
Lisa, what do you think was behind...
That's pretty good. And it's just absolutely insane. They'll actually put it in writing that we don't stand by those values. And this is fully exposed for the general public to see. But in a socialist state like Canada, they just eat this stuff up, and that's what they love, I guess. This is one of the reasons why we left Canada.
Yes.
It's not that I don't think the political system can be turned around. It's that I don't believe the people actually have the courage to vote, or they're completely indoctrinated at this point to actually like these types of policies.
And it's crazy that they're similar policies to what Nick Fuentes is actually suggesting. He just doesn't realize it because he's dumb.
Well, once in a while he's good, but a lot of his overall...
Again, his diagnosis of issues is really good. His solutions are terrible.
Yeah, and
childish.
I would like to say they're not completely thought out, and I would like to see people actually get in debates with him and actually question his worldview, because I think a lot of it falls apart. Even though I say I do like Nick Fuentes, I would love to debate him or at least question him on his issues, because they're in complete contradiction, and it doesn't really make sense. It's like he's trying to sell his ideas to both sides of the aisle, both the left and the right, or at least that's the transition he's trying to make. And I think it's more for political power than a true belief.
Yeah, and I think he thinks that's the only way to actually attain political power and attain what he actually wants.
But again, I like him in the political conversation, and we started the show with a ton of his clips because he brings up the right questions, and I would just like to see more interaction with him. Maybe from Ben Shapiro. That would be a great debate.
Yes. However, another thing that Nick Fuentes would apparently, because he says he wants authoritarian order and control, And that is happening in a lot of other socialist or quasi-socialist countries like Australia, where now they want to ban a bunch of things. And I think Nick would be very happy with this. From AUS Integrity, Karen now has cat feeders, refrigerators, game consoles, and EV cars in her sights. She's out to convince women that men are coercively controlling them by technology.
Okay, and let's talk about this.
Yes,
this is what I mean by the security state. And women voting for a security state rather than for freedom. The things she's citing, yes, they happen in society, but they're such a minute part of society. If you're going to strip everybody's freedom or ability to gain access to certain technologies, it's just not worth it. I mean, there's going to be a cost to pay with anything. She's just provoking fear in order to get a means to a political end.
And it starts small. And I was telling Guy this earlier. It started with put the pronouns in your email. What harm does it do? Even though it affects 0.001% of the population, let's just all be, equitable and nice to other people. It starts with land acknowledgements and then private ownership being taken away from Canadian citizens. Same with Australia, and it's also happening in Australia. And now it moves on to this, because what's better than safety and security? And as Nick said, again, socialism doesn't value freedom or individualism. It values control over a population.
Tanya Plibersek, she's holding a media conference there in Canberra with the e-Safety Commissioner and a number of other people about improving online safety. Let's have a quick listen in.
What happens when this technology is used for harm?
And we have to remember anybody under 16 now does not have access to the internet in Australia, I believe it is. And anybody over 16 has to have a digital ID to log on so they can track your movements online. So this is the dystopia we've been talking about for a couple of years, but now she's even trying to pitch to go a step further.
Tanya Plibersek is her name.
Not good. I'm going to hand over to the e-Safety Commissioner now, and we'll do questions at the end. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister, so much for your leadership. We know that technology can be used as both a tool and a weapon. We want it to be a lifeline for women. But throughout the course of e-Safety's 10 years, we've been consistently training frontline workers because we know that technology-facilitated coercive control is almost ubiquitous in family, domestic, and sexual violence situations. So with the generosity
Oh, he got mad at me.
With the generosity of DSS, we have stood up the world's first national technology-facilitated abuse service. We've had 20,000 frontline workers utilize our self-help hub, where we have technology audits and updates beyond the cat feeders and the refrigerators. A perpetrator can use a line bike. And today we're talking about smart cars because they are essentially computers on wheels today, and we don't want them to become weapons on wheels. By 2031, 90% of all cars sold in Australia will have telematics systems. They already have GPS. You can remotely control or lock or start the car. You can prevent an EV, for instance, from being charged. And these are the types of things we're hearing from domestic frontline workers are happening to Australian women today. So we're here. We've worked with about 400 domestic frontline workers for really complex cases. Why a woman or her children are being gaslit, cannot figure out why her ex-partner knows where she is. And we've pretty much seen everything under the sun, including children used as pawns in the surveillance of their own custodial parent. And this can happen through the gifting of iPads or iPhones with spyware on them, a new gaming system with a camera that shows who the mother might have as a guest in her home. So again, we want technology to be a tool and a lifeline, not as a vector of abuse. And so we continue to.
And I have warned about all those things happening, but via the government wanting to use those same technologies to do exactly what she's saying. And I mean, domestic abuse is happening, and it does happen. And I'm sure some of the examples are true, but
hold on, no.
Wait. I was going to say, but it's such a minute percentage.
Whoa. I just now thought about this, and the government's concerned that your spouse is going to track you on your phone, iPad, or in your car. What about the government tracking everybody?
Yeah,
aren't they acting like the abuser that they're claiming they need to protect you from?
That's what I'm saying.
That's exactly what they're doing here.
Yes, that's what we and I have been warning about for years now, that this technology, AI, TikTok, etc., cars can be used for that.
But I guess the government kind of has the mentality that you do, that at least you tell me that you're tracking me.
Because it's Mexico. But and I have said, like, authority and what's it called? Discipline is important when raising children, for example, but it should come from the parent, not from the government itself.
Well, also, I think a lot of this technology, whether it's blockchain technology, digital ID, or a digital banking system, doesn't need to be used on the citizens themselves, but the government. It's the government we need to clean up. It's the government that's constantly overstepping their bounds. And we started with the story of Candace, and this is why, if she's wrong, she's wrong. But if she's right, I want her to keep going. I want her to go after these three-letter agencies, these governments. She's now implicated the U.S. government as well as the French government and the Egyptian government. I want to see her take them
And
down.
Israel and all the world.
Oh, yeah, and Israel's
is
going
coming
after, yeah.
Well, they're the main ones because they're the ones that are, colluding with the French Foreign
Well,
Legion and the French and
it's the chocolatiers from France. But no, I do like Candace, and I do want to see her to keep going at this. If she doesn't uncover anything, then she doesn't. But if she does, it can really make people look twice at the government itself.
Which is needed.
Yeah.
And we continue to say. Rafa asks, do you think I could get fired if I add beep, beep, boop, boop to my work email pronouns? Try.
Well,
I mean, if you're in Mexico and it's a Mexican company, maybe they won't understand yet, but it is encroaching here as well. So,
well, in Canada,
maybe.
definitely.
Yes,
in the
Canada,
EU,
yes.
The United States, because Trump's in office right now, no. But
Maybe it depends on the company as well. I mean, there's some that are backsliding into or covertly continuing with their DEI and insanity programs. So I don't know. Try it. Let us know.
Let's go into the last story of the day there.
From Australians versus the agenda. Communication.
Well, I think you actually have a few more stories we skipped.
Yes.
So we'll go over to RU and BLE after this one and then finish up.
Australia, but RU and BLE is not allowing chats. So why don't we just stay on YouTube so we can actually read people?
Okay.
From Australians versus the agenda, Communications Minister Anika Wells says the upcoming social media ban will apply to everybody and insists Australians should be prepared to accept the cultural impact of the policy.
Yeah, and this is, now they've already passed this digital ID. Everybody has to have this digital ID and they have to log in and use it anytime they want to go online. And they're going to keep going further and further. This is the base that they needed.
I think the gratitude is that this law applies to everybody and that everybody will face the same cultural expectation that kids are not online on a social media account between the ages of 13 to 16. I think the sense that everybody will be facing a new world, everybody will need to interact with each other face to face the way that people used to do, I think is ultimately seen as a good thing when if you also ask those same kids, I suggest they'll be able to tell you about harms they or their friends have experienced online.
And just how she pitched this about this is good for kids, this is good for 16-year-olds, then they're going to get the data back and they're going to say, well, this was a good thing for kids, so we're going to extend the age. And we think everybody should have to limit their time online. Mm-hmm. And you see how they're going to grow and grow and grow this, but it's all based on the foundation of a digital ID.
Exactly. And Rafa says, or asks, hold on. Rafa says... I arrived late today. Was Nat trashing on Candace again, or did she join the good side? I was trashing on a ridiculous video you made us all watch.
Well, first of all, Candace did come back today on...
From a French guy, and she arrived. She did her show. She's alive. She's staying alive. Nothing has happened yet.
Thank God. My heart goes out to her. They're trying to bankrupt Candace and her family, and they're going after her.
I agree with.
I'm glad she's standing up for herself, and I hope she continues to go forward. She said all week long she's going to continue to kind of go right at Brigitte.
Because she can.
And Brigitte is trying to silence her, so...
And I do agree
for her.
that she's being sued. They might be trying to silence her via all the legalities and the legalese and through taking money from her. Yes, that I do agree with. The whole they're coming to end me on set and it's all going. You'll all see. And now she's back from her vacation for Thanksgiving and she's back on air and everything's fine. And she continues to not give any tangible examples, any tangible evidence. It's just connecting random
the French Foreign Legion member that was the whistleblower at the beginning of the show.
That's a ridiculous video he made us all watch, not just me, from a guy with a voice changer that's behind. It could be the same host that's doing it. I didn't even watch the whole video.
My heart goes out to Candace. I hope she continues on this path. I hope she actually exposes these elites, not only in Europe, but in the United States too. It looks like three-letter agencies in the U.S. government could be involved in this as well.
in the Egyptians, the Israelis, the French going after
Of course,
Candace.
all these agencies work together, don't you know?
Again, that I agree with. Like that's the problem. She has part of the truth, or at least acknowledges part of what is happening, but then she completely twists it and goes insane.
We'll just wait and see what happens. But I'm glad I'm glad they haven't silenced her. I'm glad she did come back, and I'm glad the first thing she said when she came back, and I'm glad the first thing she did when she came back was go directly after Brigitte.
With her millions and millions of views and subscribers. And again, this continues to be kind of a test. We put her on the cover, we put her name on there, and we got way more views than we've ever had. So again, I think it is either bots or people or YouTube pushing that onto just everybody for some reason.
Well,
she says she's being censored and nobody wants to listen to her. And yet, again, she has huge numbers and huge audience and no censorship.
Yeah, and thank God she does, because otherwise she wouldn't have the balls to kind of keep going with this, because they are trying to bankrupt her. So, and
will be hard.
Yeah, I mean, the trial should be coming up. The fact the Macrons decided to take it in the state of Delaware is very questionable. It's going to be very hard for Candace to defend herself specifically in that state. She connected a lot of the anchor points of why they brought it up in the state of Delaware. I highly recommend watching Candace's show today. I'll be watching it tomorrow.
She's alive and she's back and nothing happened. From Camus, and I did want to see this because I do like Russell Brand. I don't, again, always agree with everything he says or his analysis, but I like him. I respect him. I respect that he speaks about sobriety and his whole journey very openly, and he acknowledges how important it is. He's gone off on some weird religious things, but overall, he has done a great service, I think, to independent media.
Well, maybe Justin Trudeau will be the new Russell Brand after he's done with Katy Perry.
No, Russell dodged a bullet there.
Yeah,
they were married.
This monologue he does gets a lot better near the end in the second half, but we'll listen to the whole thing here.
Yeah, I won't read the intro. Just watch it. Hold on.
It fits within the milieu that I've come to recognise as defining our times: control masked as care, convenience to elicit yet further control. That the bureaucracies of our age indeed mask and perhaps are the essence of yet the tyranny of our age. I suppose we still have the hangover of the last century. When I think of despotism and dictators and tyranny and totalitarianism, I think of mustachioed dictators and shiny jackboots and red, white and black flags and Nuremberg and parades and Sturm and Drang. But now totalitarianism comes masked in bureaucracy. Control comes insidiously like a gentle fog under your door, like a warning, we're here to help you. And I suppose I'm alert to that because as a person in recovery from addiction, we of course have to learn about the obvious forms of dependency, like drug, alcohol, and then even things like pornography and gambling. But one gets a sense that the root, or at least more deep than the items I've just listed, is codependency, where relationships become dependent. Now, I believe, of course, as a Christian, that you can only depend on Christ, but the state wants you to depend on the state. And by the state, I mean, the nexus of interest that include global bureaucracies, national governments, corporate and commercial interests. They've become masterful at controlling and centralising information, and the movement of which you are obviously a significant part was a significant breach in their ability to control data. And I think we are now witnessing the reformation of their power. How do they delegitimize information? How do they smear and destroy people that convey true information? And once you know that all they care about is control, because once you have control, you can do what you want. You can profit financially or you can regulate. Then once you've understood that, then things become clearer. So I try not to believe in things just because I want to believe in them, because I've gotten to the point, because of, I suppose, anger, where I want to believe that...
Sure. You have a confirmation bias based on some anger and rage.
Yes.
As does the other side.
And that being said, that's part of the reason I really hope Candace does expose something in these governments and the dots are able to be connected.
And why is he in a bathrobe? We'll never know. But again, I do like how he speaks, what he talks about. He talks, again, a lot about sobriety, a lot about... And I guess if you have been on a sobriety journey, one of the first things, and eventually he has now become a Christian, etc. But he was testing faiths all over the place for a long time, but he continued to talk about man not being able to regulate themselves. And as someone who is in recovery or who is sober, he understands that, especially. And I think a lot of people who are sober or in recovery specifically understand that because of the whole higher power concept, that you cannot govern yourself as a human being, and you do need something anchoring you to not just yourself, because then it just becomes an ego trip. And I've said I've been sober for almost 10 years now, so that's, I think, why I connect a lot with what he says specifically.
We also have to realize authoritarianness comes in a lot of shapes and sizes, and with so much talk of socialism, and we're actually seeing a lot of this being implemented in a lot of countries around the world. Just be very aware if you start going down that path, it can come in a lot of different forms, and virtue is one of those forms they try to disguise it in now.
And it can also, again, come through the digital age and through AI and through everything we're seeing. Governments already do.
I think it very much is going to be coming through AI, digital ID, digital currency. That's why I talk about it every episode.
And there's several ways that they can make it very palatable for people, or even desirable to be controlled via the technological way. Rafa says you should follow a really graceful guy.
Oh, I haven't. I'll
checked it.
Remind me after the show.
I will. But let's see. Oh, you actually interviewed Robert Malone.
Oh, yeah. I interviewed Robert Malone at the Mexican CPAC a year ago, not the most recent one.
Sean Rickard says, Malone, you nailed it. What we see is a totalitarian socialist takeover of Canada.
I'm going to say a couple of...
And that's Maxime Bernier on the... Yeah, right there.
That's Maxime Bernier. That's Robert Malone. Let me check that. No. I'll make it a bit faster so we can get through all the clips.
Words that are pretty loaded. Benito Mussolini, who actually knew something about fascism, defined it as the alliance between basically a socialist government and industry. What you are experiencing is totalitarian socialism aligned with big business. I'm sorry, it is the definition, according to Benito Mussolini, of fascism. It's not that the right is fascist. Fascism never comes from the right. It comes from the left. It comes from socialism. And speaking as somebody from down south, what we see is a totalitarian socialist takeover of Canada. I'm going to say a couple of words.
And I wouldn't say it can never come from the right, because it can come from any side, but it's always pigeonholed that it's the right doing it, when if you actually look into the definition and other people that have implemented it, it has come from the left.
Yeah, and history.
Yeah, but I would say fascism is really rising its head from both sides, because you are seeing governments and big business really get in bed together, and they're coming together through AI and a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. And there's one side in the US that wants to continue down that path even further. From Red Pillbot, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to hammer disinformation out of existence. What we need is to win the right to govern by hopefully winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change.
And I've showed this clip before. This isn't necessarily a new clip, but it went very well with the other clip that was new, and that was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be the last clip of the day, and then
I think we have one more.
Oh, okay.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact have kind of been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go, and then people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the...
You don't need to trick people into consensus. You don't need a consensus.
Because that's manufactured consent.
Okay. Yeah, you're trying to press through policies through manufactured consent. You need a negotiation and a debate, and the best ideas should win out if you have good free speech in a society.
45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change. Now, obviously, there are some people in our country who are prepared to implement change in other ways. And
so
that's
you're
really
questioning
dangerous.
really if democracy can survive unregulated social media.
I think democracies are very challenged right now, and have not proven they can move fast enough or big enough to deal with the challenges that we are facing. And to me, that is part of what this race, this election is all about. Will we break the fever in the United States?
And they want to implement, especially the left, a system that's much more like China, with much more control, and they can control what people think by controlling what people hear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is that it for today, or you got one more?
Well, we have one more, but it's pretty long, I think.
What's the last
Nicole
one?
Shanahan.
Okay.
RFK Jr.'s.
Let's play the last clip and then we'll be done.
Okay. From Commute, this is the most jaw-dropping 4 minutes and 21 seconds you will watch this year. Nicole Shanahan, ex-wife of Google co-founder Sergey Brin, former running mate of RFK Jr., and someone who personally signed 9-figure philanthropy checks, just went full whistleblower on the entire Silicon Valley tech wife mafia. I just wanted to introduce who she was, because a lot of people might not know.
And she's great. And I think in 2028, she can have a huge impact. I've grown to really like who she is. When she first came out, I didn't know much about her, and I was kind of against her because of where she came from, which was Silicon Valley, and she was really embedded with big tech. But she's really opened my eyes to.
And she's really been also, or was for a long time, very Maha and moving moving Maha forward.
But what happened around the pandemic is that this whole other segment, what I don't think many of the tech mafia wives realize is that they were used to set the groundwork for what was called like the reset, what is called generally as like the reset by the Klaus Schwabs.
Like the Great Reset.
The Great Reset. Yeah. They openly talk about this Great Reset.
Yeah.
So the tech wife mafias, I believe, were kind of being conscripted in many ways, and their money especially was being conscripted in to set the groundwork for the Great Reset.
Yeah. Specifically through
a network of NGO advisors, relationship with Hollywood, relationship with Davos, and their own companies. So if you look at like who's on these boards, who hangs out with each other, how the culture of tech wealth works, like Silicon Valley tech wealth, and that small group of people responsible for a huge amount of money and a huge amount of NGO activity across the United States. It's a really small group of people, and it's a really small group of people making these decisions.
Yeah.
And then completely blind to everything else that's going on and how their groundwork is being used to then enable these other policies, these Great Reset policies. Now, what this group of women doesn't realize is that in their haste, these women are all very busy.
Yeah.
They have multiple properties. They have tons of staff. They have staff issues, chronic staff issues. Their kids are busy. Their kids oftentimes have some health issues as well. A lot of them have relationship issues with their husbands. And a lot of them themselves are like medicated on SSRIs and antidepressants and all of that because it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, so it's chaos, and these women find their meaning through their philanthropic work.
Yeah.
And they find themselves, like I would find myself, that was my self-worth, was my philanthropic work, and I really believed in it. I really believed that I was giving Black communities a chance to like rise up out of oppression. I really believed that I was helping Indigenous communities rise up out of oppression. And now that I look back and see how all those grants were forming, you know, because my version of success is those communities are actually uplifted.
Yeah. Not just more money pumped into them.
Not just more money. No, the problems of the community have gotten worse. Crime in the community has gotten worse. Mental health in the Native community, the Indigenous community, has gotten worse. They will even say, the Indigenous community will even say that their biggest supporters in Congress have been Republicans, but yet they continue to vote Democrat.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is this, it's like the whole model is broken. The whole model makes everybody worse off. And now we're contending with the frickin' Great Reset that we're now realizing is a terrible idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that many of our climate change issues are geoengineering issues.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is like, at the end of the day, they always go to that. They're like, but climate change. And then,
yeah,
and
that really
like,
is the end all be all. Like, you have to let us do this because of climate change.
Yeah. social justice and climate change, it always boils down to those two things, and it gets progressive women 100% of the time.
It does. It does. So
And that was good. It was a little long, but it was good for a last clip there.
Yeah, and that is Ali Beth Stuckey and interviewing her on her podcast, Relatable. So if you don't know her, she's also pretty good.
Yeah, and I'll be very interested to see who Nicole Shanahan actually backs in 2028, as well as Steve Bannon. It's a lot of these characters behind the scenes. Seeing who they kind of get behind is going to be very, very interesting.
Yes, but that is all for today. Thank you for joining us on Monday.
If you haven't subscribed, please do so.
On YouTube, Rumble, and or Twitch. And thank you so much to Rafa and Sneaky Beanie and Lauren for your comments. We do read all the comments. I'll reiterate. So do comment. You don't have to super chat. You can't even because we're not monetized.
And again, if you haven't watched Candace today, go check it out. She was live on air earlier.
Go laugh. We'll see you on Wednesday, same time. And I do have my Spanish show later today around 9:30 Mexico City time on our Spanish channel.
Adios.
Goodbye.